Hey, it's Dylan's cover week. We ended up with Dylan covering somebody else.
Yeah.
The Bennington Show. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Who
God,
knew?
that was creepy.
He's a creep. He's a creep.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everyone out there.
Seriously, people don't like you, and they're right not to like you.
Oh, they do like me.
No,
Like,
I know for a fact they don't.
Have
I
you ever
talked to every listener.
kicked out of squads.
Hey guys, happy Friday. I'm Tim Calhoun.
My sax man is no longer with Harry. Look, I hate when we come in weird because then there's nowhere to go. Coming up a little later on this program, it's Unmasked with our favorite person in the world, Louie Anderson. And Stanley, you came up to me after that Unmasked and you said best ever.
It was amazing. Best ever
You
Unmasked.
also said you cried.
Yeah, I teared up and they streamed down my face.
It was incredible. It
See
was
Chris crying?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Right.
again.
You know
Fat
what?
face just pushing out tears.
Doesn't matter what size anybody is.
Thank you.
The point is this. We were all together and Louis bonded us and he's a great guy. And there's some people that you're glad to be a fan of. And I was a fan of him long before Baskets, but now it's just brilliant to me. It's absolutely brilliant to me.
Yeah, it was so cool to see him. And yeah, I've been a fan of his for a long time. And I think you caught him at like the most incredible time because he's taken on this character and it's phenomenal.
It's the most incredible time of his life, but it's also the most incredible time of my life as a TV viewer. I finally feel like I've come into my own now with television. So that's coming up at 1 o'clock. Gail, we have another one of your favorite comedians of all time.
I know. Eddie Pepitone is coming in and I'm so thrilled.
Well, the kids love Eddie Pepitone out there, right?
They do. He has the youth on his side.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That happened for him. So again, another brilliant guy getting, accolades at a time of his life where in most professions doesn't stop that way in comedy and hopefully not in radio. I'll have to say.
And I'm going to see Eddie Pepitone tonight as well.
Really? Where at?
Yeah, at Caroline's.
Sweet Caroline's Pepitone. See if we can't get that made real quick.
Done. It's not done.
How? How is it done?
It's finished, Ron. That's me, Tim Calhoun. I cried at a certain point.
Hey, it's me, Chris Stanley. Just saying, have a happy Friday.
Oh, fucking creepy.
I think it's sweet. I think it's sweet and nice.
You'll be alone without me, and I'll be lonesome too, and blue. See the pyramids along the Nile. Now that may be one of the greatest songs of all time, right?
It's beautiful.
But I will also tell you this. There's substance to it, not just beauty,
It's not useless beauty.
No. It's not all the useless beauty. We do have, a big Friday show. Make sure you go over to the iBang. There's so many great stories up on that today. All right, now I'm told that we're going to have a song come in, but will not be the song that I asked for. It'll be a song about Chris Stanley and his drinking problems.
Yeah.
And him knocking on his head. Who did this song for us?
This was Sal from production. He's in the production.
Sal, who
department.
wrote us that song so long ago, that turned out to be a lot more controversial than anybody thought.
I guess he's cranked out another one.
Yeah.
Did he check about the rights to this song?
I fucking hope so.
He puts out songs about the same limit as like Pink Floyd does. 5 years have gone by and now we've come up with another album.
Unbelievable.
Happy Friday.
I mean,
This one's about animals and is simply called Animals. Ripped off from the book by George Orwell called Animal Farm. I'll be lonesome too and blue. Eddie Pepitone coming up in just a bit. Oh, something else. We're going to get into talking about a little George Carlin today. A good friend of ours, Jamban, has Jamban has come up with the what he considers best political stuff by George Carlin. And I go, I don't think Carlin's political. He goes, he is, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to miss the election numbers coming in because I'm going to be with Bonnie doing Unmasked. Make sure, if you can, you want to sign up for this, but we could turn this into like a whole Florida, election party.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can go to theinterrobang.com, by the way, to get tickets. Yeah. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be Tuesday, March 15th at 8 p.m. at the Village Underground in New York City.
And that's the ibang.com. Not only do you come out to Unmasked, what I consider to be a festive situation, but you will also get a chance to meet Bonnie. You'll get a free book that she will sign for you. Now, you never know how signed things are going to go. I believe that in the near future, these books that we're handing out should go to $75 to $99 in that bracket within a year or two.
Wow.
Now, if Bonnie wins an Oscar, that thing's suddenly more. If she gets the EGOT, that's Emmy, Oscar, Grammy, and Tony, that book will be more money. If she becomes or kills the President of the United States, that book is priceless.
Yeah.
And we're giving it to you for $0.00.
When you think about it, the tickets are free. The books are free. I mean...
Oh, you know what? Why, right?
Why?
It's being paid for with love.
Love.
Love from Bonnie. Love from me. Most of the love comes from Bonnie. Love from the underground. Love from Don.
Yeah.
He's the one who put this whole spanking book deal together, and I couldn't believe it.
He really pulled it off.
You know what I said to him, right?
What'd you say?
Don, you magnificent bastard. You've turned another Unmasked into a giant event, and I believe to be the social event of the spring season.
That man is a gem.
Yeah, he's a gem. He's a pearl. You know, is a pearl a gem? No. He's a gem and a pearl.
A pearl is just like part of a fish.
I think
part of a fish? Really? Like a gill?
No, like it's like growing inside a fish.
It isn't growing inside a fish, you sick fuck.
I thought like clams.
A clam isn't a fish, and it's an oyster.
Yeah. Also,
growing inside of a fish would be fish guts.
Also, I think that you still would consider a pearl a gem because it is a naturally occurring
Look that up very
substance.
quick. Oh, look how I have to wake that bastard up. Vito, look up quickly. It just put up, is a pearl a gem?
Is a pearl a gem?
Not only, he was not looking at you, Gail, but I look over at him, and during this, and it's all he has to do is, check this, he was scratching his chin with a phone.
Oh, come on, man. You don't do that. You have to use a knife for that. Pearls are organic gems created when an oyster covers a foreign object.
Going into the pretty good prize class for being right.
That's pretty cool.
And now you realize it's not inside a fish. You know what you got a gem confused with?
What's that?
Roe. You thought it was a fish egg.
Delicious gems.
I'll tell you, I could eat some roe right now.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Starving.
Let's fucking get some roe on.
What's that mean?
Like, get a bunch of roe. It's fucking delicious fish roe. And a couple pearls, too. Why not?
Well, you're not going to be that lucky, are you? A friend of mine went out for oysters and found a pearl.
Really?
Wasn't worth shit, though.
Because some of them are kind of lousy.
This was a lousy one. It
Real
was very
lousy pearl.
It was very sandy, but she was almost choking on it. She crunched it down after she felt it in her teeth.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I've always liked a black pearl.
Me too.
They're beautiful.
But you know what I like? I like a strand where it goes black and white, black, white, black, white.
Oh, that's a good look.
Because it reminds me of Ebony and Ivory, my favorite song of all time.
Ever?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking I'd like a black and yellow one, because that's my favorite song ever. And I'd go to a lot of Steelers games. Like, let's say Black Pearl, Yellow Canary, Diamond. I think once I make a bunch of money, that's the first thing I'll buy.
Is that based on some Asian thing?
No. It's Steelers, Wu-Tang, black and yellow go well together.
Yeah, I know, but why would you bring it up when I'm bringing up Ebony and Ivory?
Yeah.
You know, something that
weird.
Brought blacks and white people together. Oh, look, the chairman of NASCAR yesterday They're showing it right now. He promoted or he endorsed Donald Trump. That's enough for me. I'm voting for Trump. Now they're saying there's a backlash about it too.
How?
I've been so busy lately, I can't keep up, Chris,
I know.
Right? Maybe you've heard of the amount of Unmasked that I've been doing.
So many.
Including one with Carrot Top.
Yeah, and you can email Carrot Top Unmasked for tickets to that. It's Wednesday, March 16th at 2 p.m. at Sirius XM Studios. Email carrottopunmasked@gmail.com.
I'm going to go to that. I'm going to be there.
I'd love to. Oh, this is great. It's going to be so much fun for me to know somebody there.
Chris, can you put me on the list, please?
No, Gail, well, you have to email carrottopunmasked@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand. Rules are rules.
What is it? How do we get there again?
You got to email carrottopunmasked@gmail.com.
Can I just call it on my phone?
No. If you use a keyboard and a computer or a phone or a email program on your phone, carrottopunmasked@gmail.com.
Oh, it just made him really loud and scary at the end. Like when he wants to focus, he gets so loud and scary.
It's next Wednesday, March 16th at 2 p.m. at the Sirius XM.
Do you ever notice he does that with a point too? Like if he wants to make a point, he just argues a point. He just ups the volume. And to him, that's how
there shouldn't be slavery. That's what he'll just
I would never say
no
that.
No slavery. Oh, we got the song in
from Sal.
Do we know the title of this song?
It's the song about Chris.
Okay, so it's so great to have a songwriter who is better than our shitty songwriter, Joey Jojo.
Piece of garbage.
Yeah.
All right, here's Sal's new song. Apparently it's about me. What the fuck happened? Don't know what happened.
You can see my hand appear on the left. I tried to stop him from drinking vodka.
How the fuck did I get to a hospital?
Like, that's not gonna happen. I can't stop him. He is out of control. Nobody looks drunk compared to Chris. Whoa, he is a lot drunker than I realized. How would he have been able to even speak, considering how bad off he was?
Gail rocks the mic on Bangton.
There's Gail.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Hey, everybody.
Coolest chick you ever saw.
Donnie Love asked a lot of people to expose themselves. You were the only one who agreed.
Chris Stanley is looking dope sick.
I told myself I'm not going to drink for 8 weeks, and I want to get through that.
Cause he don't drink no more.
That's no kind of goal to have.
Yeah, why not?
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Joey Jojo air drums harder. Do you think he can really play?
Zips. I saw Chris drink vodka.
And Pepper wants another drink.
Passed out drunk. 4 times the legal limit, 0.32.
As he swats bugs away, Gail once shoved Chris in an
Uber driver took you home.
Cause he drank way too much ale.
You know I got a 1 star from you, you son of a bitch.
He's twitchy and he's sweaty.
Holy fuck.
But Pepper owes his life to Gail.
Consider us paying for your Uber cab and your hospitalization. A little Christmas present from Sirius XM. That's Sal from Image's brand new classic. Chris owes his life to Gail. Gail, you ended up being a real heroine there.
Wow, I'm so impressed by it. And you know what? I'm glad that Sal recognizes it. What does Chris Stanley recognize it? That's what I want to know.
No.
I want to say thank you, but not to Sal, maybe to Gail.
You know what you should thank Gail with?
What's that?
A $50 check to cover the weird Uber that happened. By the way, I went from Brooklyn to Manhattan the other night. Cost like $11. Chris goes from Manhattan to Astoria. Should be anywhere from 11 to 13. Came in at a hot 50.
I'm so confused. And you know what? I don't even want the money because the thing that you can't pay me back is the fact that I think that I got 1 star on that thing.
Sure.
I know that I got 1
Cars
star.
won't pick you up now. And you deserve the 1 star for being his friend.
You're right. That's the 1 star that I deserve to say, I put this responsibility in your hands, Uber driver. Get my friend home safe.
I'm going to find that Uber driver. I'm going to try to get him to redo the star thing for you.
I don't think that's possible.
At least give the 50. That's something you can do. Well, that was a fantastic song. Joe, that was sent to you?
Yeah, it was sent to me.
Did it feel a little dated since it's about the Christmas party and
Good work, Sal.
we're into March now?
3-month delay. Now who's drinking?
Sal's a great name for a guy who sells pizza. I don't know if it works for imaging, though.
Sal from Imaging.
Yeah. Hey, Sal from Imaging, I got a funny little story about Chris Stanley.
Don't worry about it. Sal's going to take care of it for you.
He's about what a stupid drunk he is and how he fucks everything up.
No thanks, Sal. Why don't you keep that one yourself?
I'll tell you this, Sal has come up with a song a million times better than anything Joey's done.
Oh, come on, guys. Remember Sarsgaard? That was pretty fun.
Wow. Remember earlier in this week when he embarrassed us in front of Judah Freelander?
Yeah, that was terrible. What was that, Monday?
Yeah. And then you know what Judah said to me on the way out? How's that dude keep his job with you?
Oh,
He did say it.
Yeah.
Joe.
Really?
And I said, who? And he goes like this, the nerd.
Oh,
He calls you the nerd.
He
Yeah.
called me the nerd?
And then he said L7, and he made one hand go L, and the
Like
other
a
one.
square?
Yeah.
I thought that was a rectangle.
Yeah. Well, it kind of looks
you
like
know,
one.
I'm like, yeah, I guess he is a rectangle. But now I'm figuring out he's a square.
Oh, God.
Like a real L7, Daddy-O.
L7 weenie.
Man, let's talk a little bit about stand-up comedy. Our man Jam Band is in the studio with us, and you want to talk about Mr. George Carlin.
Yeah, I mean, I think George Carlin, in my opinion, is probably like the best stand-up comic that ever lived. And
I would say this. It's a short list that he probably never would fall further than 2. Now, the first, like, so many people say Richard Pryor, Richard Pryor, Richard Pryor. And Jay Moore was the guy who goes, yeah, but he said to me, but if you look at the amount of work that Carlin did and how long, and then I was like, And now I've been stuck with that. And that happened years ago.
Yeah.
I still can't work it out in my head. But I know this. I knew who Carlin was before I knew who Pryor was.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time that you were aware?
Fuck yeah. It was the Class Clown album. That Class Clown album meant everything to my neighborhood. It got passed around like it was a fucking joint. Catholic kids loved that album because it was the first time we ever heard an adult bust balls on catechism. And, you know, we heard kids like, hey, this shit kind of seems weird, right? Some of the stuff they say doesn't match up. But when Carlin did it and made it sound so funny and logical, that was it for us.
Yeah,
We're done.
I think that especially, like, there is something that happens when you're young and you find a comic like Carlin where they can joke about either religion or politics in a way that you'd never hear adults talk that way.
Love it.
You weren't even aware that adults could be like that.
Now, you make the case, and this is up on the iBank today, Carlin was more of a political comic than we give him credit for.
I think he was probably the most hardcore political comic of his time. And I think what he did still holds up today, and if anything, is more relevant than ever today.
All right, let's listen to a couple of these.
Thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians. Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Yeah! Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out. If you have selfish, ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish, ignorant leaders. And term limits ain't going to do you any good. You're just going to wind up with a brand new bunch of selfish, ignorant Americans. So maybe it's not the politicians who suck. Maybe something else sucks around here. Like the public. Yeah, the public sucks. There's a nice campaign slogan for somebody. The public sucks. Fuck hope.
Fuck hope. He yells twice. Well, the fact is that we all are ready to say that politicians blow, but we don't take any credit for the fact that we prop these assholes up there.
Well, yeah, that's a funny thing right now is, Trump, the whole thing has been so polarizing. There's people who, are following him and they're just completely behind him. There's people who are like, how could anyone do this? How could anyone feel this way? And yet there is something that is like, maybe this is the politician that America deserves because this is the politician that America wants. You have to look at it this way. Maybe it's not a comforting thought, but it could be the actual truth.
There's no doubt that people who act like, how did this happen, didn't pay attention. He is the Frankenstein monster that has been born of this divisive politics that we've had the past few years. And when people say, I don't vote, I know people get mad about that. I think that is a vote. I think a vote of not doing anything is an odd and interesting kind of vote. It's almost like going, go ahead, fuck up the country. It's got nothing to do with me. I've skipped elections and felt great about it. I like it a lot better when the guy I vote for doesn't get elected. There's a feeling of superiority that you love.
I'm just saying screw you to everybody. And that feels good, in my opinion.
I think that there needs to be some level of accountability for the public, and I feel like people just are too quick to just put it on the politicians. And
I agree.
And say, this is their fault. This is their fault. Like, dude, you put them there,
Well, if you even look at the people who pushed Obama, why did they leave him? Like, all right, you're the president now. You go do anything. Because if you would have turned around, and I don't know how many people are going to be voting for Trump, probably, or even if he loses 60 million. Right? That's a lot of people saying we want some kind of change to happen. Why should they stop the second that it does? Why aren't they staying on top of each one of their commissioners and senators and congressmen? How
many people in New York do you think even know who the senators are in New York right now?
It's a tough thing.
Yeah.
And your local is more important to you than who's president.
Exactly.
And you can get less people to show up for those types of elections.
Well, it's like when you go to PTA meetings. When you go to a first grader's PTA meeting, that place is fucking packed. And when your kid's a senior, you show up, you can eat as many cookies as you want. You have it made. Because at that point, they just get bored with their children.
Right.
They just don't. But if you go to a T-ball game, there's going to be parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. Everybody's there. Go to a high school kids' baseball game, and it's the guy who sells them pot is waiting for the game to end so he can give it to them. People just run out of enthusiasm. We don't care. Chris Stanley didn't care this week when Astoria was shot up. He had nothing to do with it.
I just, I wasn't aware of my own neighborhood, which is terrible. I feel like that guy's going to make a good recovery, though.
You told us earlier this week that he was dead.
Which is it?
Why would we believe you about anything? Seriously. I wouldn't believe you if you came screaming in here and told me my hair was on fire. I'd have to feel scalp burn before I would actually go and grab a water. Scalp burn. All right, let's get into some more of this George Carlin. What's the next piece about?
The next one is called The American Dream, and some have called it the best 3 minutes of his career.
Oh, I want to hear this.
There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
Funny man, maybe a little truthful there. I know a lot of people got a little turned off with him later in his life because he stopped offering a way out, right? As he got older, he not only turned on the United States, but he also turned on humanity itself.
Right. This is shit,
yes,
and you're shit, and I'm shit.
And we all blew it. And it's over, and who needs us?
But the American dream especially is one of those things that I feel like it's like the most discussed thing that comes up in debates. Politicians always have to address it. Have we lost the American dream? Who can get the American dream? And it all just is for nothing. It's a made up thing now.
It is. Well, first of all, it was always a made up thing.
Right.
But what do you think the American dream is now? I mean, back then it was just enough to support a family, right?
Right.
Have some safe working conditions, send your kids to school, and maybe have 1 week a year at the Jersey Shore. That isn't anyone's American dream now. If you had that, people act like you're a strap hanger, a ham and egger.
Yeah, because there's pushing people to want bigger. You know, it's for the same reason that they pushed for kids to make sure that they seeked out higher education. It's why you're like, oh, you don't want that kind of
right.
job. So it's something that they actually went against. I mean, they as in, you know, the message that they were
establishment
society,
yeah.
That they were putting out that kind of message, and then they're the ones who actually screwed up the message.
If I actually had to be honest with you, I think it happened in the 80s during the Reagan era. And a TV show came on called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And I swear to you, I never heard anyone in the suburbs thinking about being rich or famous till that fucking show came on. And people going, I want a house like that. I want my own plane. The neighborhood that I grew up in, no one thought anyone was going to get rich.
Yeah.
It wasn't a dream.
Yes.
That a person had. Your dad never discussed money with you, like, oh my God, we got to have money. He just would come home, tired, take off his shoes, maybe have a beer, pass out in front of the TV so you could change the channel. That was everybody's dad. No one's dad was sitting around going, we got to get an app started. They didn't think in such ways. They didn't think that way. And the weird thing is that generation thought that, first of all, I think that generation thought that they were happy because they didn't get killed in World War II. You know what I mean? So that they could come back here and, you know, couples could meet up. Again, you would have enough food, you would have a car, and then maybe this crazy thing that their parents thought that they were nuts, you would take a vacation once a year.
Yes.
Not every 5 weeks like people want to take
But it
vacations.
was based on a simple life. That's why. The idea,
Yes.
which again was never true, but the idea from dream to just all out fantasy. Like now it's an American, like, imagine if you lived like this. Imagine if you could have anything you wanted and that you are supposed to strive for that. That is
imagine that you lived in a health spa because they're trying to turn houses into health spas.
Yes. You need a walk-in closet. You need a steam room. You need
Now, here's the weird thing. No matter who you are, you probably live better than people lived in the 80s, the 70s, and the 60s. You know what I mean? Like, you have more stuff than they did. But
yeah, that's another thing is that all of that started way before products became necessity. It was not like you really just had to, you know, have what you needed.
right.
And now it's like everybody wants things all the time.
So people didn't sit around and weren't consumed with what kind of sneakers they had.
Yes.
Literally, if you weren't running or playing basketball or tennis, you put on hard shoes. You did not wear a pair of sneakers to show people that you were doing well.
Right. I mean, even if you looked at wealthy families, their houses probably still weren't filled with the amount of shit that we buy now. You know, maybe if you were wealthy, you had some nice things, you had nice art on your walls, you had nice china, but it was, you know what I mean? Like, it was not.
Wasn't so much more comfortable. But I will tell you this. Go up on the Hudson to FDR's house, and he was from a rich family and was president. You wouldn't stay in there now if it was a fucking hotel. It looks rugged. Rich people lived back in the 40s. Rich people still had a rugged life.
Right.
It wasn't based on a thread count all the time. I was talking about George Carlin. This is all up on the Interrobang today. Have you noticed that Chris has gotten very quiet about this, though? I think it's because, you know, what happened in the story.
Is that what it is?
What's the next piece that you got for us?
The next piece is called You Have No Rights.
Now, if you think you do have rights, one last assignment for you. Next time you're at the computer, get on the internet, go to Wikipedia. When you get to Wikipedia, in the search field for Wikipedia, I want you to type in Japanese Americans 1942, and you'll find out all about your precious fucking rights, okay? All right. You know about it. You know about it. Yeah. In 1942, there were 110,000 Japanese American citizens and good standing, law-abiding people who were thrown into internment camps simply because their parents were born in the wrong country. That's all they did wrong. They had no right to a lawyer, no right to a fair trial, no right to a jury of their peers, no right to due process of any kind. The only right they had, right this way, into the internment camps. Just when these American citizens needed their rights the most, their government took them away. And rights aren't rights if someone can take them away. They're privileges. That's all we've ever had in this country is a bill of temporary privileges. And if you read the news even badly, you know that every year the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter. You see how sooner
All right, so that's kind of interesting because the internment camps, how close do you think something bad happens again in this country and people start saying, let's round up Muslims?
What will be the next thing that is like a mark on our...
Right. Because, I mean, Donald Trump was able to say, don't let Muslims into this country. And you saw both parties, including the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Democrats and Republicans said, this is crazy. And yet, I think a majority of Americans agree with Trump. They're ready to give in to fear over rights.
I think that, and also maybe eventually we'll look back on this time the way we talk about immigrants as being pretty embarrassing, considering it was something we kind of founded the country on the entire
Do you honestly
basis.
think that future generations would look down on us for a giant wall, much like the one that Berlin had? I doubt it. I mean, we all We all look back fondly on the Berlin Wall. Why wouldn't we think, yeah, this is wonderful. We're building a giant wall. And as he has brought up many times, hey, look, they built a bigger wall in China, so it can be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when people are in the moment of what they think is a good idea because it's all based on fear. I remember just maybe a week or two after 9/11, sitting around in my humanities class, and they were discussing, you know, where we're at, what they think the reaction of the country will be. And then one girl just immediately started launching like, I wonder if there's a way to round up these people and just put them in a designated area. And like all of our jaws are just dropping like, oh, you're doing it. You're doing that exact thing that people look back and be like, that was a terrible idea. Like you're coming up with this because you're an idiot teenager. Like, I've got a model idea. Camps. We'll put them in camps.
I just love how George brings up this whole idea of the shrinking list of rights, because ever since I was a kid and ever since 9/11, it just seems like one thing after another kind of just like inhibits us from having that sort of freedom that we used to have. Patriot Act, NSA, you know, whatever it may be. And you said before, Ron, if like what's it going to take for us to just snap and then
it won't be too much more. You know what I mean? It won't be too much more. And if I look over at, let's say, Chris Stanley, if he was born in the Middle East, he'd be drug into the street tomorrow. I mean, the way that you act is so horrific and so disgusting that a lot of times I just want to turn you over to those secret police.
No, don't do that.
I remember not too long after 9/11, we were driving, me and Fez were in the back of a cab, and we had somebody who was definitely more Middle Eastern driving us. And we get stopped coming into our neighborhood by the neighborhood. I'm more or less neighborhood watch or whatever. They had set some things up.
Right.
And he was giving the cab driver a hard time. And then he looks back at me and Fez like, like, see, we're doing it. And I was just like, we were like appalled because we'd been talking to this dude. Like he wasn't some guy that we had just seen for the first time. We were sitting talking to him about the whole situation. And then just seeing him slightly mistreat it and slightly given that showed me your papers. He had to get stuff out to show. And it fucking freaked us out a little bit.
And there's nothing worse than that thing of being like, we're on the same side, right? Like, no.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
I mean, I don't think I ever felt as white as I did in that moment. And most of the people that were in New York at that time were not talking retaliation because we were all so exhausted and, weirded out by the whole event. The last thing we wanted to hear is like, we're going to get those fuckers.
Yeah, that was like the voice of the country, but it wasn't happening in New York City.
Every football game was just waving flags, and we're like, easy, dudes. That's the same kind of weirdness that got us into this.
Exactly. I think New Yorkers are a little, they're still so shell-shocked. We weren't feeling very patriotic. We were just still really fucking numb and just like, what just happened?
But comfortably numb. And I remember thinking, is this whole country turning into some shitty Chris Stanley?
No.
Or is there a way, you know what I mean? Is there a way to play to our higher angels? You know what I mean? Not our lower devils. I know one thing. Chris does wipe with his hand. And that has always made me question him.
I adapted that from, Muslim culture. I figure if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me.
That's a racist thing to say.
We're all humans.
That's gross.
First of all, it isn't Muslim culture. It's people without toilet paper. There's nothing in the Quran about wiping without paper. You're fucking, seriously.
That's really
you
fucked
are.
up.
It is. Where do you live? Queens?
I live in Queens.
Okay. Says it all.
Yeah.
That's everything I needed to fucking hear right there.
A lot of, my Iraqi and Pakistani brothers are out there.
Oh, my God.
Oh, boy.
Chris, no.
Just shut up.
Just
seriously.
no, Chris.
When I look over at you, just act like you don't see me.
I can't. I just can't.
Why didn't you sign up, Chris, when 9/11 happened?
I don't think they would have taken me.
Why don't you give them the opportunity to say?
I made the decision for them.
You were just about age appropriate, right?
You know what he said to me? He says, I can't go in. I got fat feet. I go, it's not fat feet. It's flat feet. You said.
There's not a shoe that I can fit this foot
I go,
in.
first of all, I don't care how much you eat. Your foot ain't getting fatter.
How am I going to fit that in a boot? It's going to kill me.
That's an old Italian joke, that you just did without even meaning to.
Then my apologies.
Vito, how come you didn't go serve? You hate this country?
I was 9.
No, now. We're still fucking having problems
It's still a
now.
war on terror.
I don't know. I never liked the idea of waking up and going for like a 5-mile run and showering with dudes. And
What did you do last night? Did you drink candle wax? Your fucking voice sounds terrible every day. You're too young to have your voice give out.
I went to the doctor and he told me I didn't have a throat infection. I don't have a sinus infection. He looked in my ear. He was like, you just got to give it time, man.
Well, that means you're straining your voice. You're talking and yelling in the wrong way. You need to go to a voice coach.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing for you.
Well, maybe I'll go to like an ENT. And they'll tell me what's going on with my throat.
What is that?
Ear, nose, and
Ear,
throat.
nose, and throat doctor, the professional.
Well, why don't you say it? What's your fucking hurry that you're just coming up with these?
You're making me feel like a crazy person.
You just
I've
told
never
us you went to an ENT.
No. I went to City MD. The urgent
First of
care
all,
place.
you just been told you've damaged your vocal from screaming too much. You need to go to a voice coach so you can understand and use your voice properly.
I go to some free clinic where they do God knows what in there.
Free
They
clinic,
they
it's a
probably
copay.
gave you something.
This is radio, okay? You got to take care of that voice.
That's true. That's all you got.
So
You know one thing. I wish Chris's voice would go out. We'd probably have 10 times more entertainment. Chris, when you think of the dumb things that you say,
Yes.
and then you sit around and listen to this Carlin bit,
Yeah.
you've got to really feel bad.
Oh, yeah, I feel, yeah.
Does any of it
Stupid.
sink in, though?
Love Carlin. Yeah, it's thinking. I mean, but I can't apply that with my own head. That's the problem.
You know, I met George Carlin before. It was one of the sweetest nights of my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I was introduced to him. I liked him in Bill and Ted, and my father said, well, there's actually...
Nobody asked you.
Oh.
But go ahead and, you know what? I just gave him the thing that I met him, about to go in and what was exchanged.
And then he said,
And then-
I saw Bill and Ted.
Thank you.
that is like a certain type of personality that exists. Like, you know, there's the one upper personality,
Yeah.
but then they're like the one under where they give you less than a story, but they give you
I know.
at level enthusiasm. Like, yeah, me too, because I saw Bill and Ted.
It's like if someone told you that their dad was murdered, you're like, oh, really? Because I ate a sugar daddy before. And those things are delicious. But I just kept pulling on it with the taffy. Go ahead and say your fucking story that we'll never get to hear about the time that I actually got to perform with George Carlin. But I want to hear your story.
Well, I enjoyed him in the film Bill and Ted, and my father told me, well, he's done a lot more than that, kid, and then gave me some of his albums.
Wow. That's the least interesting story I've ever heard. Please, NR, if I could talk to anybody from Secret Service,
No.
come and investigate this man.
Don't do that. There's nothing to see here.
Really? Because you go into the deep web, and there's got to be a lot of stuff in there.
What's the deep web?
Wait, what is it? Is that what it's called?
It's the deep. They call it the deep web. They also call it the dark net. They call it's interchangeable.
Is it deep web or dark net?
It's dark web.
So,
Dark web.
do you go to a dark thing instead of a deep thing? And you actually downloaded the thing to get you in there?
Yeah, it's the Tor browser.
I would
is
never
what it's
go into
called.
that fucking browser in a million years.
Oh,
Well,
spank
see,
you.
you can't just you get actual. There's different kinds of websites they'll give you. There's no search engine or anything.
So who gives it? How do
There's
you find out?
forums online that'll show you go to this website, you go to this website, and then there's links within the websites that you can gain access
And
to.
then they show you all the kind of weirdo stuff you want to see.
Whatever you want. What do you want?
You watch beheadings. You buy meth.
Really?
Yeah, those things could happen. Sure.
Guess what else you get? You get watched.
Yeah.
You're on a fucking watch list.
There's nothing to see here, though. Why would they watch me? I'm not doing anything wrong.
Because you have no right.
I'm
You
just
just told
looking
us you
around.
went to beheadings and bought meth.
I didn't buy meth. He just brought up that there's meth of possibilities.
Is that what you did?
No.
Do you watch beheadings? Is that what you do?
I've seen them before.
That's sick.
That's horrific.
That's sick, Chris.
One of his things that he loves to go to is animal porn.
Oh my God, that's what gets you a boner, Chris.
I don't know if there's any hard-ons
Gets
achieved,
you
but
one.
it's interesting.
That got me a boner. I don't think anyone says that.
That's he does. That's got that got me a boner. The Chris Stanley story. Do you know that I put Chris? I taken him off the Daily Show, and put you and Joe and Vito in charge of that.
Yes.
I put Chris in charge of special projects, and it started Monday and it's now Friday, right?
Yes.
I'm just here to report special projects has disintegrated in front of us. It has come apart. I don't know what you touch that it doesn't get destroyed. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We should have you hug ISIS.
Went from special projects to special needs.
Oh, oh, that one hurt because it was so true.
What's going on with special teams?
No, it's us. That's this fucking guy. He's missed some field goals from fucking 20 yards out. All right, let's play one more, Carlin. By the way, you put even up more on the iBang. And it's amazing. You know, we were talking about who's the greatest of all time. But it's amazing that if I saw these bits got done, I've already forgotten them, and I'm hearing them with fresh ears, and it's phenomenal. What's this bit about?
All right, I think we should do question everything if we're only going to do one more.
Sure. We've only got time for one more because Chris tucked us off into the story about watching Bill and Ted with his dad.
As per usual.
Yeah.
Fond memory, you know? Right,
Was it?
Like I say, there's enough bullshit as it is. There's enough bullshit as it is. In fact, there's just enough. Did you know that? There's just enough bullshit to hold things together in this country. Bullshit is the glue that binds us as a nation. Where would we be without our safe, familiar American bullshit? Land of the free, home of the brave, the American dream. All men are equal, justice is blind, the press is free, your vote counts. Business is honest, the good guys win, the police are on your side, God is watching you, your standard of living will never decline, and everything is going to be just fine. The official national bullshit story. I call it the American okey doke. Every one of those items is provably untrue at one level or another, but we believe them because they're pounded into our heads from the time we're children. That's what they do with that kind of stuff. They put it in the heads of kids. They pound it in there because they know kids are too young to be able to mount a sophisticated argument against these kind of ideas. And so kids, and up to a certain age, by the way, kids are going to believe everything a grown-up tells them, everything. So kids never learn to question things. Nobody questions things in this country anymore. Nobody questions things. Why? People are too fat and happy. People are way too fucking prosperous for their own good. Everyone's got a cell phone that'll make pancakes and rub their balls now, you know? So nobody wants to rock the boat. And people just gizmo. Americans have been bought off and silenced by gizmos and toys. And as a result, no one's ever learned to question things. No one questions things in this country anymore. No one questions things.
Well, you know, we talk about that a lot. Like, how many things got into your head as a little kid that you now think are your thoughts, you know?
Yeah, sometimes they're handed to you and you accept them as truth. And that has to either do from your culture, from your parents, from the religion you grew up in, whatever it is, you just say, this is my world. This is the world that I was presented with.
Well, remember that most of us think that nothing is more important than family. Family is the most important thing. And the people who told you that were family members. This is a fucking pyramid scheme that really works for the elderly. Right. You know what I mean? You're running money to the elderly all the time. And instead of saying to children, treat people nice and be around people who treat you nice, right? Do not act like, oh, my mom says awful things to me, and I make sure I'm back there every Christmas. You know what I mean? Fuck that. Why are you taking that shit?
In fact, often family is what, there's so much of that stuff where they're telling you this isn't the person you're supposed to be with.
Right.
They're always, that is always the biggest dispute, right? Like, we don't want you to marry that person. But there's never been any good lessons about saying, no, your new family is going to be the biggest part of your life.
Right.
And let me teach you, what it is to look at another person and say, this is a person who's going to respect me, and this is the type of person who eventually I'm going to make a life with. They're saying family is the most important thing, but this family, the current family that's my family.
Well, we literally go out and say God and family. You know what I mean? God and family is everything. It should be if those people are nice to you. You know what I mean? Or if that God works out where he's nice for you and not a mean, shaming God.
Oh, vengeful God?
Yeah.
Not
well,
nice.
He's good. He's God-fearing. Oh, that's scary.
And that's another thing they shove down kids' throats when they're little. You know, they tell you in school, America's the greatest place on earth. God loves America. It's the best country on the face of the planet. But you can't question anything when you're a kid like Carlin.
You're an idiot. Yeah. Believe me, there was nothing I liked better when I was a little kid than the flag ceremony. I was ecstatic. Being able to look over to see if that flag hit the ground or not, because I wanted to destroy it in a proper way.
It's going to happen this time.
The excitement level of we're all walking out to put up a flag right now was fantastic to me.
The amount that teachers would say, you live in the greatest country, and you should be thankful. You should be so thankful that you wound up here and not in another terrible country.
Right.
God and country, God and country.
Yeah,
God and
like
country.
nobody-
Shove it down your throat.
I was actually taught that we lived in the best county. I don't know whether you got that, but we were very, very proud of Delco. You know what I mean? Delaware County. But it's weird because even people who said they were atheists, if the plane starts to go down, you'll go back to that. You'll immediately start and do Catholic prayers.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was fucking completely wrong. Please stop this plane.
If you're
On the way
listening.
down.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that in your head.
You're the only one.
It's just there. You've had it in your head since you were a little kid, and now we're adults, and we all got these cell phones that show a new cat video every 2 fucking seconds, and we can't retain anything.
I know I can't. I'll say this, when you brought up God and country, it's so weird that Jesus hadn't even heard of America, nor did he bring it up.
And for some reason, we tie those two things in
Yes.
together all the time. Jesus and the United States of America.
Yeah.
They could not have less to do with each other. If those are your two interests, fine. But
Yeah.
don't try to combine them into one interest.
I always like, too, when people were like, you'll see like Americans going like this, Jesus wants you to make money. He wants you to do well. And he wants this football team to pull together. You're like, you're just using this for your... He didn't know about football. He had no idea about this kind of capitalism that you're talking about. And yet you have no problem yanking all that stuff together. Well, I think we all agreeing here. Carlin was right. We're in a horrific time. It's all over. I'll say this. If there is a God that wants a sacrifice, Chris Stanley, let's throw him on a thing of fire, even if it doesn't work. I mean, I'm agnostic, and I'd chuck this fucker on a bonfire right now, because what have I got to lose? What have I got to lose? I know one thing. The special projects have disintegrated.
We're going to come together.
I just got a thing here from Don.
Okay.
Fuck the special projects.
No!
Oh, my God.
And he just writes the projects have been Stanleyed.
Is that a good thing? Is this a good adjective?
When would it ever be used as a good thing?
I was just hoping.
Yeah. You keep on hoping. Well, there's a lot more of these up on the iBang. Once again, Jam Bang, fantastic job on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do we know what our next GPS? Have we decided whether we're going to Manchester or not?
I've been really pulling for Manchester, England.
How does that feel?
I think it could be fun.
I know one thing. Don't let special projects in charge with it.
That makes me nervous because it is a special project.
I know it is.
And I don't want you to Stanley that project.
They won't get Stanleyed.
We've been knocking these out of the park. Nothing is getting Stanleyed.
Yeah, because
You are right. They are getting knocked out of the park.
Yeah.
That's because we just keep him at a nice distance.
Yeah, we use a smaller park. When Stanley's involved, it's a giant park. It's like knocking something out of Central Park instead of Wrigley Field. Or the Yankees who use the shortest fucking porch ever.
What's wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with it is it's fucking embarrassing.
Add some numbers.
It's 180 feet to hit a home run in that stadium.
And they still fucking aren't going to
They actually should just have it go back and forth as the game goes on.
Instead of fucking tread.
You think we're going to be alive for the year that the Cubs win it all?
No. I mean, the apocalypse happens with the Cubs not winning shit.
Does anybody else think the Cubs are going to win it this year? I love picking the Cubs to win it all.
Cubs win.
Yeah, Cubs win. Cubs win. And I'll be going to Chicago with a Cubs hat on for the parade.
Nice.
Because Bill Murray is going to be there.
Not going to happen.
You don't want to see it happen in your lifetime?
I mean, it'll be nice, but I just know it isn't. That's all it is.
I would like a
It's
story
like a
like
fact. It's like science.
Yeah,
That'll be the end of it, right? Or then we're going to start and root for Cleveland.
Cleveland's next.
Yeah.
That ain't never going to happen. I mean, come on.
Poor bastards. Poor fucking bastards. Well, how many of your team have over all time?
25.
I'm from Philadelphia. We have 2. And in a lot of ways, though, I think that's even better.
better than 25 because it's rare. Yeah,
it's rare, and you can
Means
sit around
something.
and talk about it.
Wait, isn't it 27?
Yeah, you're right. It's 27.
Well, you're some fucking fan, aren't you?
Snap.
You're the exact whole time.
25.
I'm from Philadelphia. We have 2. And in a lot of ways, though, I think it's even better.
Better than 25. Because
Yeah.
it's rare. Yeah.
It's rare, and you can
Means
sit around
something.
and talk about it.
Wait, isn't it 27?
Yeah, you're right. It's 27.
Well, you're some fucking fan, aren't you?
Snap.
You're the exact opposite of a fanboy.
See, this is why I'm happy that we get Jam Band working on these
Right.
projects, because look at
We
that.
don't want to be Stanley.
Like selling up the number of wins.
You son of a bitch. The way you said that. It's pure racism.
Ow! It's about myself.
Dude, I got to go to break here. Do you want this to go on forever?
No.
What do we got coming up?
Mr. Eddie Pepitone.
Well, good. It'll be great to cleanse our palate
Yeah.
of your lies of 25 world championships instead of 27. Eddie Pepitone, one of the funniest people in the world.
I adore Eddie Pepitone. I'm so excited. for
Everybody
this.
loves Eddie Pepitone. We'll be right back. This is Bennington.
Bow, bow. Welcome back to Bennington. I want to remind you guys, the Bonnie McFarlane Unmasked is happening Tuesday, March 15th, 8 p.m. at the Village Underground in New York City. Everyone attending, you're going to receive a free copy of Bonnie's new book, You're Better Than Me, and then we're going to do a signing afterwards. So you go to theinterrobang.com for a chance at free tickets. Theibang.com. Free tickets. Free tickets, free book. It's going to be a great night. I'm very excited.
Yeah, life is good, my friend.
It feels
Life is
good.
good.
It feels
Someone
good.
said today, after that book is going to be worth so much money after she suffocates Boston in sleep. And I go, this is a. These guys have been together a long time. They're going to continue to be together a long time. Perfect couple.
They're a power couple.
They are a power couple.
A comedy power couple.
They should have a TV show called Love. Hey, by the way, if you are a fan of Will Arnett, and why wouldn't you be? He's taking over Sirius XMU, Channel 35, all day today, playing his favorite indie songs and music from the soundtrack to his new Netflix series Flaked, which debuts today. Shares music from the story from the soundtrack and all of his personal collection. All right, I'm going to ask you this, Will Arnett. Before you even go over to XMU and check them out today. And by the way, this is my favorite thing because I've never known too many comics that didn't have great taste in music. Mainly because they travel so much, they need good music.
Yeah.
But almost all the time, you'll meet a comic and he's like into a certain time of blues or funk or even hip hop. I know a lot of comics who are like so specific about their hip hop. But we know it's XMU, Channel 35. Who's Will Arnett going to say is his favorite band?
I'm going to say Will Arnett is going to say Talking Heads.
Ooh.
Yeah. I bet he likes the Talking Heads.
That didn't even occur to me. What do you think, Chris?
I feel he's a Breeders guy. He's going to say the Breeders is his favorite band.
My initial thing, for some reason, Pavement came into my head right away.
Oh, that's a good
You know?
answer.
But I also think at some point he's going to play the Replacements. He's not going to say they're his favorite band, but he's going to call them the Mets. You know what I mean? But just to let everybody know,
Right.
Will Arnett, I got things happen. That's over on XMU, Channel 35. You can check out an article about it too on the iBang today. Thanks for everybody, Rob Cross, for letting us know that. He used to be paid to be my friend, and now I don't see him so much.
Yeah, but now you know you're real friends. That's, you know now
what?
that there's money is out of the equation.
I know, but he used to stop by every day and we talk music. Now he's like, hey, I got something for you to plug. And I'm like, I'd love to. And I would say stop down, but we're so busy today. Coming up in a little bit, it's the Unmasked with Louie Anderson, which we all loved.
It was so good. I'm so excited to share this with everyone because this is one of my favorites. Like easily instant classic.
I'll say
Unmasked.
this. I looked up and Gail was crying.
It did
And I'll
happen.
say this, crying hard.
And I never cry. You guys know that. I never weep.
And I looked up and Chris was sweating.
Well, yeah.
The amount of sweating you were doing today was horrific.
It was very sweaty.
I feel like there was a shower coming out of my body.
So much stuff on the over on the iBang today. Will Arnett, XMU. Billy Connolly is doing a short tour. You want to be part of that? But we've got another great comic stepping in here. One of your favorite of all time, Gail.
One of my favorites of all time, Eddie Pepitone, is going to be in just a moment. Eddie is performing this weekend at Caroline's Comedy Club. So that's tonight, March 11th through the 13th. Go to carolines.com for tickets. And Eddie's special In Ruins is streaming now on Netflix.
Eddie is beloved. Let's bring him in. The one and only Eddie Pepitone.
Grateful Dead. I'm really getting into them more and more.
Well, they were.
Does that mean I'm old?
Yeah. No, just the calendar means that we're old. But you used the Grateful Dead, and was it your special the last special that you did?
In the documentary.
Oh, the documentary, yes.
See,
it was yes.
The fan is here.
No, but see, here's the thing: when we're talking about we're getting old, young people are crazy about you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish the networks knew that.
I know.
Hollywood, because they just fucking want, young people, and they look at me and they go, "Oh, God. Get him out of here. That's disgusting."
And they literally say that?
No, but they're thinking it.
I know. They would never have the balls to say anything close.
No, what they say is, we are big fans.
Yeah, we love you. We're not going to use you, but we
They don't
love
say
you.
that. They're like, everybody loves you. We can't wait to work with you. Maybe he'll die soon.
But I did this 1 hour with Louie Anderson, and he was in the same thing. And then this one role that he gets.
What role did he get?
He's in Baskets with Zach Galifianakis. Yeah, and he's playing a woman, and I'm thinking Emmy. I am not even kidding.
Is he good?
It's
so
unbelievable.
phenomenal.
I gotta watch it. I have to watch Baskets. I just worked with Zach.
Yeah.
On a thing with Todd Glass. Do you know Todd?
Yeah,
Who's
love him.
Fucking funny.
Yeah.
And Todd, it was a pilot. We're not on, are we?
Yeah, we've been on.
We are. We are on. This is great. Hey, everybody! Don't think I didn't know we were on.
All right, this is a beautiful.
That's the way I play it.
But you know what's great? That people can see that Eddie is hilarious off air as well.
Now that I know I'm on, I'm like, anyway. And that's how it is with being on stage too. Like, you're really funny with your friends. You're really funny with your fucking friends, and then as soon as you go on stage, it's like, oh, hi.
Well, you know what?
Toast is funny. Isn't toast funny?
I was saying, Gail, it takes you years of doing comedy to get back to the way that you just were when you're with your friends.
Absolutely.
Before you step on stage is where you're at your best, and then it takes years to get to that point.
When you're at your best is when you're with people you're comfortable with. Like, I feel comfortable with you guys, not so much this guy over on the,
I don't
in the
blame
corner.
you.
But it's like that's when you're at your best. But and it takes years to be funny in front of people, but sometimes you could just get the wrong audience, like people who just don't like you. People who just, it's very immediate with an audience. Like, they just look, how you just look. I do this bit too where I say, I'm at the point now where I hate everything. Like, I'll just look at somebody and I'll go, God, I hate that hat. Like, I'll just see someone with the hat I don't like and go, you asshole. Like, my humanity completely, like, I have no humanity sometimes. Like, what kind of hat is that? What kind of person are you? Like, judging someone on their hat,
Eddie Pepitone is in studio with us. Eddie is performing this weekend at Caroline's Comedy Club, March 11th through 13th. Go to carolines.com for tickets. And Eddie's special In Ruins is streaming now on Netflix. Also, The Bitter Buddha, Eddie's documentary, is available on eddiepepitone.com.
That's brilliant too, man. I just love that.
Yeah, the documentary.
Yes.
Yeah, that was wild. The director Stephen Feinartz just approached me after I used to do the Mark Maron, the WTF lives in LA, and I would just rant, and he saw me and he was like, I want to do a documentary on you, and within 3 months another guy asked me to do a documentary on me, and I was like, am I dying? Why are people asking to do a doc? But this guy Stephen Feinartz, who did it, is just great. I just trusted him right away, and it was just a really fun experience for me. I love having a camera. Like, most people don't like having a camera following them, but for me it was like, oh, please record everything. Because I know I know I'm not going to be here long, and I just want my father to see. My father's in it.
Yeah, your father's great in it too. I mean,
he didn't know. He was like so good. He didn't know.
Well, that's the thing, that you get to see the Eddie Pepitone on stage, but then the off-stage guy is different. But then by the end of it, you're going, yeah, they're the same guy. You know, at first you're like, oh, is that a character that you're playing? But no, it's really just what life is.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about doing stand-up, I realized, is that you get good when you finally kind of accept yourself for who you are.
Yeah.
Like when you finally are able to just speak truthfully, or semi-truthfully at least, about your life. Like when I first started out doing stand-up, all my bits were very abstract. Like, oh, what if a caterpillar was had a brain and he was on Fear Factor? Like I would just do all these abstract bits, but now I could just go up and go, you know, I was just walking down the street and I fucking hate people. You know, just kind of talk my truth. Like, why does my father hate me? What is that about? Anybody else have their, I mean, these are the people who are supposed to love you. The people, how come the people closest to you want you dead? What is that about? What is that? You know, everybody is saying we should worry about the terrorists, but to me, CNN should come on and say, be careful of your parents. There's a red, you know, your parents want you dead because you haven't fulfilled their expectations. Their lives sucked, and they wanted you to make their lives better, and you have failed them. So be careful. We're on highest alert with your parents trying to kill you.
Yeah, where did you see Eddie perform?
Let's see. I've seen you at the Bell House.
Now, was that the special that he shot there? What was
the special was there, and then where else have we seen him?
Union Hall.
Oh, you saw me at Union Hall.
That was such an excellent show. I mean, people next to me were falling down. I'm not kidding. We were crying, laughing. It was a phenomenal show.
Yeah, you see that was a for instance of like really feeling like the audience was with me. So I felt like it was just being with a bunch of friends, and I love that about coming back to New York. You know, where it's just great. Like I'll sometimes I'll do like I did a club in Peoria that's a really nice club actually called the Jukebox. But I swear to God, there are people who were there who never heard of me. You know, they just wander into a club, and I look down at them, and they just look like they don't know what the hell to make. They're like I'm ranting and screaming about the apocalypse, you know, but in a funny way, I think. But they're like, why aren't you? Like I can hear their inner monologue going, why aren't you talking about dating or how hard it is, you know, between men and women, or you know, what the hell are you talking about? Bob, why is this guy yelling? Why am I yelling? It's funny, all the characters I do sound like me. I need to work on voices or something.
What's the election year like for you though? Because
oh my God, you know, I'm a Bernie guy.
Sure.
I'm a Bernie guy. And my friend James Adomian, I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I love it.
Adomian is going around doing Sanders, and Anthony, I forget his last name, is an amazing Trump.
It's phenomenal. And they were doing that before, you know what I mean? Like, literally, he was doing Sanders when people were still trying to figure out who Sanders was.
Well, he loves to play with the fact that Bernie is always like quoting numbers. Well, the top 10% of the 1% is equal to the bottom half of the 3/4 of the 3%. And that's just the fact. You just do the math, you know. But you know, it's funny. I was watching the Republican debate on JetBlue. That's not to brag. That's not to brag. No, it's not to brag that I have that kind of lifestyle. I travel on JetBlue. I watch the Republican debate, and I was you know, and the only thing I think that anybody watches the Republican debates for is just to see them really insult each other. But last night they weren't doing it. The one debate I watched,
they took it away.
They took it away because it's gotten to be like, you know, it's gotten to be so bad. I guess it's just such an embarrassment to the Republican Party.
Yeah, it killed Rubio's numbers. He got out, he was getting laughs, but everyone said, you're doing someone else's act. You know what I mean? And it just destroyed his numbers. So,
you mean when he would go after Trump?
Yeah, when he went after Trump, the news was loving it, and then the crowd was loving it, and then his numbers went from like 15 to 6 overnight. So
wow. So the people who were voting for him were like, hey, I don't like the fact that he is being nasty or whatever.
And that everything they like in Trump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's what they love in Trump. Like, there was even a point in the debate last night where Trump said, "I can't believe how civil it is up here." He actually said that. I don't know if he was baiting.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't know if he knows. Well, he does know that people love when he's like, "Hey, listen,
right?
I'm just gonna kill people. Don't worry about anything."
Yeah.
The best is after he said it, he kind of mugged everyone like. Right? Am I right?
Yeah,
and nobody else on the stage was enjoying that he was saying it at all.
They weren't, right?
Well, he kind of has got a chance to own that act. And then people who like him go, but he's not going to act like that when he gets to be president. They actually will say, he's just doing that now. But, it
God,
is.
can you imagine it? I mean, I wonder what a Trump presidency would be like. It seems like the Republican Party is really going to great lengths to stop it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you know what it's going to be like. It's going to be like Atlantic City, where we thought it was going to be great.
This is it?
While we're driving down there, like, this is fantastic. And then we saw how tacky it was.
Look at the boardwalk.
Yeah. But, if you are a progressive or liberal person, be way more afraid of Cruz. You know what I mean?
You see, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is, like, landing on Trump, but Cruz is the guy who really scares me. He looks like a mannequin.
Yeah.
Does he not? Like, there's a waxness to his face.
Yeah.
Like, is that, I would love to touch his face.
Well, he is.
And just see if that's real. Like, and like, just like swipe my fingernail against like the cheek and go, it's wax, folks. This is a CIA creation. There he is. We're looking at a picture.
It makes me think that someone kept some old Nixon sperm because
I've got some, but that was from a crazy night in Virginia when I was playing in Virginia. Yeah.
Well, I think Drudge is a Trump fan, so he put up today.
Drudge is a Trump fan.
Yeah, he wants him in, and so he put up a thing of Cruz's dad speaking in tongues because they're Pentecostals, right?
Are they Pentecostals?
Yeah, they're Pentecostals, but he's trying to keep that somewhat quiet. But he does that shit where they just start.
Now, speaking in tongues, is that good for oral sex? Like, I would imagine, like, I should be envious over those guys.
Yeah.
You know how they say do the alphabet when you're supposed to be having oral sex?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing that they're wrong about. Just do the Van Halen logo. You don't need to do the entire alphabet.
The Van Halen logo?
VH back and forth.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that.
There you go.
Is that
Follow
it? Okay,
the Van
thank you for
Halen
that.
logo, and
Thank
you're
you
on your
for
way.
that. Because my wife has been on the internet a lot lately. I gotta start doing something different. Yeah, but Cruz. So they're going after Cruz, huh? With he's very that Tea part. That whole thing to me is scary. Like, what's amazing to me is that these guys, like the Republican guys, like will just go after Trump for actually having a good thing to say about Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, really, guys?
Yeah.
Like, that is evil. It's just, to me, it's an upside down world.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand it. I don't understand it.
That's the thing about Trump, that he'll just suddenly out of nowhere say something good about Planned Parenthood. Or even Obamacare. He says, we're getting rid of Obamacare and getting something better. And the Republicans are going, what are you doing? Don't want to help sick or poor people.
Oh, right.
Don't you know what
Now what you just said is an amazing statement. We don't want to help sick or poor people. And nobody blinks. It's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Are you guys kidding me?
Eddie Pepitone is in studio with us. Eddie is performing this weekend at Caroline's Comedy Club starting tonight, March 11th through the 13th. Go to carolines.com for tickets. And Eddie's special In Ruins is streaming now on Netflix. And The Bitter Buddha, Eddie's documentary, is available on eddiepepitone.com.
Well, what we don't understand here in New York is what our Republicans are considered Democrats everywhere else. In the country,
because New York is such a diverse city, and there's actually people read here. There's books here, there's libraries here. You know what I mean? I find that even on the West Coast where I am in LA, I'm always kidding people that why don't you crack a book and get out of the gym, you idiots? I like to run into gyms with like just a big crock pot of pea soup and bread, and like and some Dostoevsky's like Crime and Punishment, and go, get off the treadmill, we'll have some pea soup and bread and read Dostoevsky, you idiots.
Well, you were even talking about together, how can the two coasts be so different?
Yeah,
Americans.
The personality for East Coast versus West Coast, you might as well be talking about two different countries.
Well, one of the things
interesting. Have you lived in both?
No, but I have been out to the West Coast.
Yeah, what's your impression of it? Because I've lived there now for 13 years, and I feel like, when you're a zombie, how when the zombies bite you, and then you become a zombie. Like, I think I'm partly becoming a West Coast out of necessity because I'm with them. I'm there, so I'm like, I'm going to Ralph's. And then I'm going to walk a half an hour. The sun gets you out there.
Yeah.
No, it does. It bakes your brain like every day. It's like a Camus novel. Like every day's the same. Every day's the same. It's like a blank white canvas. You don't get to change a season, so you don't know what year it is. I mean, year. I just said year. You don't know what month it is. My wife brought home oranges, not to brag again. I have that kind of lifestyle. No, I don't want people to feel bad that I get incredible fruit in March.
It does turn people off. You got to admit, it turns people off. Oh, Mr. Fruit Guy.
His wife brought him oranges. Hey, Margaret, someone in Queens. Margaret, listen to this crap on the Bennington show. This guy gets oranges in March. You haven't brought me home a piece of fruit since I stopped doing the Van Halen logo. No, but in February she brought me home some oranges, and I said, and they were really good. And I said, well, honey, these are good because it's summer. And I said it's summer because it's 85 degrees in February over there. But you guys are getting warm weather too, right?
Well, but that's just global warming. We've been really.
Well, I don't believe in global warming. I never have. I think we're just entering another cycle.
Yeah, right. It's a cycle. Well, one of the things I think different between New York and LA
West
too,
Coast.
but people in New York smoke pot, but they don't talk about it constantly. I don't know how you can be in a long conversation about it.
See, what happened when I went out there, I was out there for 2 weeks for work. And so I was working.
Nobody works in LA, so that's already a brag. We have meetings. We don't work. That's what we do. Meetings.
And I met this woman out there, and she was running the studio, and she's like, so great to have you here. And by the way, if you need weed, we can do that for you. And I said, we can do that for you in New York as well. Like, we have our own resources.
It'd be funny if they took that to another level. Like, and if you need to shoot up in the bathroom,
absolutely.
There's absolutely a stall for you.
Does anything but cigarettes.
Right.
No cigarettes.
Exactly. No cigarettes.
That was very weird. And during that time, I was a smoker as well. So I feel like...
Smoke cigarettes?
I smoked cigarettes. So I felt like it was weird, the amount of people that would come up to me to be like, oh, you smoke? I'm like, it's happening right now, isn't it? It's happening right now. And then they would say, like, that's really bad for you.
They would say that.
I never heard that before. But the thing was, when I first got there,
it'd
I was
be
like,
funny if they said, it's really bad for you, and you just like spit out your cigarette. Like, you're kidding me.
Oh my God.
I didn't get that information.
But, when I first got out there, I felt very weird. I felt like my personality did not. I felt, very much like a New York personality somewhere that I was not meant to be. Mm-hmm. But then within the last couple days, it was like I was standing out. The weather was beautiful. You just like wear your sunglasses everywhere you go.
Seductive.
And I was just like, I could definitely do this. I
Yeah.
could absolutely do
You know,
this.
that's so interesting because when I first went out to LA, I lived in, I went out to shoot a movie, Old School. That's how I got to LA. You know, with
I didn't know
Will
that.
Farrell. And
Yeah.
this is a real brag. Now, I'm not, you know, this isn't like Oranges getting, this is more like in your face, everybody. But by the way, I think everybody who's not in show business is a coward. I want you to know that. I want you to know that. If you're not in show business, you're a coward out there. I don't care what you do. If you're not putting yourself on the line in horrible show business, you don't know what tragedy is. Anyway,
Firemen, cops, cowards.
they're absolute cowards. I don't want to hear about it. But yeah, and I first went out there, and it is intoxicating when you first go out there. It's like, holy cow. I lived in Venice by the water shooting this movie. But when you're there for over a couple of years, you're like, okay, I would love a cloud.
Right.
I would, and the traffic, by the way, you just spend it, like here you have public transportation. Over there, man, you have to get used to your car and like being in like traffic sometimes that is life threatening. You know what I mean? Like you are just sitting in bumper to bumper, like God almighty, you know?
You would have to be really at peace with being alone with yourself, too. Like, if you spend that much time in your car.
Oh, everybody's got
sure.
their podcasts on and all that.
Yeah, but I think that's why, like, the David Hockney paintings are like the perfect LA thing because it's
I
a
love those.
backyard and it's sunny, and I'll sit and stare at and I'm like, that could be my life. You know,
Right.
a couple moves, I'll just end up next to a pool, high, and eating oranges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what people do in LA.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. And that's why when you ask them to come to your show or meet you somewhere,
Right.
they don't show up. They're too high. They're by the pool. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to make it.
He just put up some of these are the most fascinating paintings I think of all time.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Just-
love Hockney.
Yeah, me too. But you just look at these things that they're really kind of almost about nothing, and yet every one of them is like a novel. When you look at them, you're just like...
They're very soothing, right?
Yeah, it's like The Graduate, where he was depressed but in the pool. You know what I mean?
I'm
You're
just
like,
floating.
You're just floating and feeling shitty, but getting a tan while you're doing it. You know? That should be the most depressing movie ever. And it's
The Graduate?
Yeah, and it's considered a comedy. You know what I mean? But he's
Mrs.
going
Robinson.
through-
Mrs. Robinson. Come here, Benjamin.
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 That's one of the greatest scenes of where he's going. He's either diving on her, but then the next shot is he's on the.
He jumps up on the raft.
Yeah, he jumps on the raft, and it's like he's diving on her in the bedroom. But he
Oh,
ends
is
up-
that right? They cut it. That
they
was
cut
Mike
it.
Nichols.
Mike Nichols when he was really young, man.
Oh, yeah. I did love The Graduate.
Yeah.
Did Buck Henry write that?
Buck Henry did write it, which is amazing. He also would have been a very young guy. This is like 66, 67.
Yeah.
He's
when he was
another New
writing
York
it.
guy who wound up in L.A. Like, they
Yeah.
all wind up in L.A. Like,
Yeah.
so many people, you know, they go there for the work, you know.
Yeah.
Some of them run back, you know, like, oh, get me the fuck out of here.
But you know what I always like is like guys that you think were New York first that aren't, like Albert Brooks.
I
Albert
would think
Brooks
he
is
was New
amazing.
York.
Yeah.
He was New York as well, but he grew up in Beverly Hills.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And he's never lived outside of L.A. And when
Yeah.
you see him, there must be just like a couple of delis that he went to as a kid, just stayed there, you know?
Well, maybe his dad, maybe they were originally East Coast people, you know what I mean?
Well, his dad,
I would
yeah.
think, yeah, his dad.
His dad was a radio comic.
Yeah, his dad was a comic.
Yeah. And then, of course, his brothers are hilarious as well.
Oh, who's his brothers again?
His Super Dave Osborne is his
Super
brother.
Dave. I
yeah.
forgot about that. I forgot
Yeah.
about it. But I love that his real name is Albert Einstein. I
Yeah.
mean, he had to be very funny.
Yeah, the fact that he changed it is probably the one career move I disagree with that he's ever made.
You should have just been Albert Einstein.
Well, that and being in fish cartoons.
Oh,
When everyone's going, isn't this great? He's in another cartoon. I'm going, have you seen the movies? Please.
What, the Nemo? Was he in
Yeah,
Nemo?
he was Nemo. Yeah.
Nemo's dad.
And now he's become a bad guy. Like,
I know.
yeah, in that movie, was it called
Drive.
Did
Yeah.
you see it?
Yeah.
Well, he was good, right?
He
Like
was
a really
good.
nasty
He was good.
dude.
But I'm like, Albert is stabbing someone in the throat. I just can't even
Well,
picture
you know,
it.
comedians have
Yeah.
a very dark side. You know what I mean? Like and that's like a cliche, but I think it's pretty true, you know, that there's such a fine line between tragedy and comedy. And it's like the desire to be funny and the desire to like have people eating out of your hand and be funny, I think is fed by trying to keep all these dark things, you know, at bay. You know what I mean? And again, folks, that's not to brag that I have these demons that are nipping at my heels, and you people are even keeled. Margaret, what the hell is he talking about? Demons are nipping at his heels. All I want is a cup of espresso, you know, the one George Clooney shills for.
I know, he's turning Danny DeVito onto espresso
What
like
is
Danny's
that?
never seen coffee. He's like, what is this?
Does he really?
He's like,
and
let me-
people watch it and go, I can't believe that Danny DeVito never had espresso.
He's been a millionaire since 1979. His life is unbelievable.
Yeah,
You're
all he knows about is tea and coffee. Danny, have you ever tried espresso? What? Do you know cigarettes aren't good for you? What?
Eddie Pepitone is in studio with us. Eddie is performing this weekend at Caroline's Comedy Club, March 11th through the 13th. Go to carolines.com for tickets. Eddie's special In Ruins is streaming now on Netflix, and The Bitter Buddha, Eddie's documentary, is available on eddiepepitone.com.
back at Caroline's, which I guess when you lived in New York, was Caroline's up this way, or was it?
You know, it started at the Seaport.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, you know, it's always a big name club, and it started to Seaport. And I'll never forget going to see, before I got into stand-up, stand-up is really a frightening thing to do, seriously. Mm-hmm. And like, I always wanted to do comedy, but I didn't have the balls at first. And I went and saw Elaine Boozler down at the Seaport, and she was amazing. Yeah. And I only think I saw a couple of shows down there, but that's where it started. Yeah, you know.
What was your regular club? Where were you a regular in New York City?
In New York, well, I was kind of the king of the alternative circle. Yeah, I got into UCB. I would do all these crazy little alternative spots: the Gershwin Hotel, Surf Reality, B3. But then I did other clubs too. I would do oh my God. You know, I did them all. I did stand up New York. I did the comic strip live. Yeah. By the way, is the comic strip?
Yes.
It is?
It's open from the outside. I know that for sure. I know that.
Catch a Rising Star when it was around.
Yeah, which I went by not too long ago, and it looked like they might take the building down. And I'm like, people don't realize, you know, what that building meant to New York City at one time. I mean, it was, you know, bigger than disco.
The Improv was around.
Yeah, the Improv.
Back then.
What, 44th? 44th? Yeah.
44th.
But yeah, it's always amazing to me, those kind of clubs, when they disappear, like, you know, the Fillmore East in New York. You're like, how could that... Why would you ever get rid of that place? You know?
Yeah. It's all real estate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always real estate.
Hey, John, before you rip this down, there was tremendous history there. Rip it down! I want to make money. No, I agree that the history somehow should be preserved, and L.A. is amazing like that as well, because L.A., the amount of like incredible things, like their downtown, which if you've been to downtown L.A., it's kind of what they say is up and coming now, but it's crazy because it's like, you know, homeless encampments and then like really nice restaurants. Like they're trying to make it up and coming, quote unquote. But I mean, they had in theaters back then that Laurel and Hardy and Chaplin did, and now there are electronic stores, and you have no idea that history existed. And I feel kind of ripped off. Like there should be some kind of preservation.
Well, you know, it's one thing in New York because there's always an overturn, but that town owes its existence to show business. You think if there was ever a place that you could sit around and say Chaplin was here, you would save it as much as you possibly could. You know?
Exactly, you know, and I wish they would, but
there was like, I've walked around in in New York, like on 56th Street, and a guy pointed out to me, he said, "You see that place over top of it? That's where, Ray Charles did What I Say." And I'm like, "How? Just put a plaque."
Well, it was
just a regular building that had gone on and something else. And, it was, and I'm like, that, if I was a tourist in New York, is the kind of things I'd want to see.
Well, we were saying too, that one of the biggest one is the Brill Building. Like, people just pass the Brill Building and they don't realize, because they're focused on, usually they're headed down to Times Square, so they're not.
Yeah.
Really
What's the
looking.
big significance of Brill Building again?
So that was all of the recordings of the 70s.
Incredible recordings.
60s and 70s, or just mostly the 70s?
The 60s is when all the girl groups came out of there, and Phil Spector and great writers were in. That's where Carole King, and they would set it up. And the building itself is gorgeous, as a matter of fact.
It's Broadway and
49th, probably, right out there. You can look out this window over here and look down at it. And a gorgeous place. I think Paul Simon keeps an office in there still.
Does he still?
Lauren Michaels keeps an office in there.
Yeah, because it's sad when we don't know our history. I mean, I think that's a big thing.
I agree 100%.
And I think, and I tell people now, I do a bit, and this isn't to brag, I do bits, but I do. No, some people are like, "Oh, he's doing a bit, Margaret. Mr. Fancy Pants has an imagination." We pride ourselves on not having any imagination in this household. Just we see what's in front of us, and that's it. Like right now, I see toast, and that's all I care about. No, but I
love how he gets back on it. He knows where he left the road.
No, but I really feel like, especially because of the internet, I think, Twitter, Facebook, our sense of history is like a half hour ago in a Twitter feed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, look at this, Mark. This is history now. Yeah. Look at this. Some guy a half hour ago was at O'Hare Airport and he saw someone drop a sandwich. That's it. That's all I know about history. Half hour ago. No, I'm serious. Like you ask someone today about the Civil War in this country, or, anything before forget it. It's like, what?
Well, even
1970?
Even in this city, there's this tiny little plaque when you're down in the Village where that fire was, that all those girls were killed, and the reason that
the triangle waist,
shirtwaist fire,
and it's the reason that we basically have unions at all, or ever had unions, and it's just a small plaque of this tragedy.
Is that by the Flatiron Building?
Yes,
it's in that area by Chelsea, right?
And it was not too long ago. It was like the 100-year anniversary of that fire, and I had kind of been in that neighborhood. And there was a firehouse, and they just went out and rang the bells during the time.
Wow.
Well, that's kind of cool. And nobody knew what they were doing. But nobody really
knew what they were doing. There was a couple, a women's group that was kind of nearby, and then there was a couple of people who
Isn't that sad, though, that are, and it's not just New York, LA, it just seems like in the United States, it seems like there isn't much of a sense of history. And I think that's also part of, I'm laughing because I love to get serious. It's so the opposite of comedy, but it's part of the dissolution of community in a way, because we're not keeping up with what happened.
But we do pass around pictures of the Kardashians.
You see, that's the thing. And we do have espresso, which George Clooney.
It's unbelievable. He's teaching, these poor people like Danny DeVito how to get a drink.
George Clooney and Danny DeVito tour high schools now and go, "Look, kids, you don't have to be drinking coffee. There's a thing that steams milk and steams, and it's more concentrated."
Yeah, but it is there. Maybe it's one of the good things about America is that we do look ahead. We do still have some amount of optimism, but you can't forget where these things that have happened in this country.
I was speaking to a friend of mine who's from Ireland.
Here's another brag.
Yeah, here we go.
Two brags. First, you have a friend, and secondly, she's from Ireland.
Yeah.
Well, great.
That's my dream.
So he had said that in Dublin, I guess that they don't make any new buildings, because they did it once and it was like in the 70s and it was so ugly and horrible. So now they're like, we don't. So, but he kind of looks at New York like, I think that it's kind of beautiful. Like, you have some things, but other things kind of get crumbled down and you rebuild. And isn't that what's kind of amazing about it?
He's sick of the old buildings.
Exactly.
He's like in an old building in Dublin going, damn it, there's no elevator.
Exactly.
What the hell? I got to walk up these stairs.
The only buildings we're building now is how high up are billionaires willing to sleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the new buildings are going to be like 100 stories, but they're not even office buildings; they're apartments.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Boy, New York, you know, like I haven't been, like I come a couple of times a year, you know, to do shows and stuff, but it's really become like a boutique island, huh? Manhattan. Manhattan is like, I mean, you have to have a lot of dough to just live in this city, you know.
Well, what's funny is go like and buy anything, an ice cream or a hot dog, and then say to the person, how far do you have to travel to sell me this? How far out do you have to live?
Where are they coming from?
Yeah, because they're an hour and a half, 2 hours out to come in. And
they're getting helicoptered in from Hot Dog Island. All right, guys, like they're being talked to from a bullhorn on a helicopter. Everybody have the hot water? Are the dogs in hot water? 1 finger up for yes, 2 for no.
Yeah, everybody's going to travel a long way now just to come and work here. Probably as far away as the tourists travel. Right. They come and spend $350.
Really? Like New Yorkers are going to be coming from, where are you moving? Well, the new place that's really hot is Nebraska.
Yeah, right. It's really getting hip.
It's really, we're in Platte, Nebraska, and it's not a bad commute to work. They're commuting every day 12 hours. Yeah, what we do is we just fly in and out. Yeah.
Eddie Pepitone will be performing this weekend at Caroline's Comedy Club March 11th through the 13th. Go to carolines.com for tickets. Eddie's special In Ruins is streaming now on Netflix, and The Bitter Buddha, the documentary, is available on eddiepepitone.com.
How much are you thinking before you get on stage these days? Do you just go up and riff the way you've been doing today, or
you know those are my best shows. Yeah, when I just go up and riff. But you know, it's funny about riffing. Like, there's definitely preparation that goes into riffing, because my best shows are when I can really get like a couple of hours to myself before the show and just kind of go over all the comedic stuff that I've been thinking about. I kind of am disorganized in the way I write my material. Like, I'm not a guy who's like, okay, I'm going to write a bit about raisins, and then after raisins, I'm going to write a bit about the dissolution. Well, I tend to think more about the dissolution of society, but like, I just have all these thoughts churning in my head, and then I'll write about them and kind of like freestyle, and then, you know, like I said, if I feel like the crowd is really with me, I get to like just go kind of nuts. Someone the other day in LA, Bobcat Goldthwait, actually, he said, "You're the Charlie Parker of angst."
Wow, that's great.
Like, so I kind of like riff around like a jazz musician when things are going good. Like, you know, the way I did like the voices and come back to, like, that's how I like to do it. Occasionally, though, I get lost. Like, I'll be riffing around so much, I'll then look at the audience and go, where am I? Where am I?
Yeah. Well, Bobcat is like an interesting thing because he created a character that people identified so much with, but he can be funny in like 9 different places other than that.
Oh,
character,
he's really cool. Yeah. I mean, that was, like you said, that's one element of him, but the guy's a director, like a
great movies too.
Yeah, great movies, a director, really thoughtful guy. That's what I love about most comedians, is that they come off sometimes, you know, in their personas or personalities as like, oh, jerks, but usually they're pretty thoughtful people, except this one comic I know. He's an idiot. I won't mention names.
Well, we were talking about that with Bill Hicks, which was such a breakthrough comedian for everybody that was watching him. Him, Carlin, Pryor are my top 3. Is that right?
Yeah.
What was it about Hicks when you became aware of him?
You know what? It was about how Hicks would call out the bullshit, the sellouts. Like I'm a politically left guy, and I feel like it's really important. I always think, what would Bill Hicks say if he were alive today with what is going on? I think he would be like just such an incredible voice against all of this, insanity that is going on here, and I just loved it. Like I'll remember one of my favorite bits was him talking about, I don't know if you remember this bit about Hicks talking about, hey, if you're in marketing, kill yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Bill is just going for that angle of like, no, I'm not. If you're in marketing, kill yourself. Like things like that. Like, I just loved how it seemed like he was uncompromising. I just loved how uncompromising he was about the truth. And I feel like the great comics are like that. I felt like Carlin was like that. I just watched his thing on YouTube. Someone sent it to me about the American Dream. And I don't know if you remember that, but he ends that going, yeah, they call it the American Dream because you have to be asleep to believe in it. And it's things people don't necessarily want to hear, Yeah. People go to comedy clubs and they're like, I want to hear about how sugar's not good for you tonight. Or whatever it is, but it's like, bang, he really...
Well, that was the thing, too. If you came after Hicks, you have to measure your own material against that. You're like, why else would I be doing, particularly in your act, this stuff, when you go on these rants about, unfairness, you're going to have to measure yourself. Against that kind of material.
Because he kind of paved the way. And I mean, like the comics who do that, they give you the courage to then go, like you hear them. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because not a lot of people do that. They stay to safe topics, and I understand that because, people want to lighten up, they want to laugh. But I think the best stuff is when you really like dig deep and talk about like just what is going on, and people then are like, hey, this guy, they realize this guy's speaking the truth. I want to hear what he's, that's amazing. It kind of gives you the courage as a
and
comic.
The real art is to be funny and be entertaining at the same time that you're doing that. My favorite stuff is when you don't necessarily agree with someone and you still laugh. That is perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Eddie Pepitone, always great to see you.
Thank you guys so much.
You're so amazing, seriously.
Thank you so much.
Eddie Pepitone is performing this weekend at Caroline's Comedy Club, March 11th through 13th. Go to carolines.com for tickets. Eddie's special In Ruins is streaming now on Netflix, and The Bitter Buddha, the documentary, is available on eddiepepitone.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Eddie Pepitone.
Going to take a break. When we come back, it's Unmasked with Louie Anderson. Really, really great hour. We'll see you then. And how is it? How does it taste?
0 calorie. You just try to lie to yourself. Hey, there's sugar in this.
Walking through the halls with Louie's like walking with the Pope. Everyone stops him every 3 feet.
Yeah. Well, that's because I have to go to the bathroom.
No. This is a great time to be you. Everybody's
I'm really
cheering
lucky
for you right now.
Yeah, it's like almost like, oh, am I going to die now? I think I'm a little bit of a fatalist that way. Comics like, oh my God, what's going to happen then? Well, I don't want everyone to like me because then, oh my God. Oh, here's a guy on Twitter who hates my guts. Oh, thank God. He said, he was almost like, oh, am I going to die now? I think I'm a little bit of a fatalist that way. Comics like, oh my God, what's going to happen then? Well, I don't want everyone to like me because then...
Out so much, not just attention to you, but this massive thing that I think people have been waiting to say for a while, just about how talented that you are.
Oh, I think that I grew into, which is hard to believe, that I grew into this role somehow. Like, I was a terrible actor when I was younger, and I wouldn't listen to anyone. I'm a typical comic. Mm-hmm. If it isn't mine, it probably isn't any good. Comics have that thing. If I didn't write it, oh, well, how good could it be? And then I got this part, and one of the first things I said when I got the part was, you're not going to complain about anything. This is a conversation with me. which I often have.
And
then I say to myself, anything? Yes, anything. You're not going to complain about anything. Okay. And you're not going to say no. What? And those are the two things that I didn't do for the 10 weeks that we shot the show. I didn't complain. I never said no. Whatever they asked me, if it was 15 or 20 takes, I just said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Did you have any idea?
It was really good for me. It was really good for me.
But did you have an idea when you saw this? Like you thought to yourself, this could be that little spark that could be the thing?
You know, when you're around people, I'm from a certain era where we move in, we do the show, let's get the hell out of here. Right? When I went in, I actually felt like I was going into maybe an operating auditorium where stuff was going on that was different than I was used to.
Yeah.
Where there was collaboration before, during, and after the shot. Where there was a great crew that just discussed everything and tried to make it perfect. And where the director never said one negative thing the whole time. Like, that's an unusual thing.
Yeah.
Not once did Jonathan Kreisel say anything negative. He just said, let's try it again. And I go, okay, because I have to say yeah. So, yeah.
Of that conversation.
And I can't complain.
Yeah.
So.
You ruined all this.
Yeah. The other me really screwed me up for this whole thing. But, and I was in good hands because, if you know his credentials, Saturday Night Live, Tim and Eric, Portlandia, Men Seeking Women. I mean, he has hands in all these things plus many more. And he was just terrific, And Zach, who was the pro of all pros, and Martha. Get to work with two comedians is always a lot more fun than two actors. And I consider both of those great, like Zach's a great actor, but God, he's a great comedian too.
Yeah. And very giving in this role to you and Martha that, you guys there's a lot of comedians who want to hug, every joke has to be around them, but he's let you guys really shine and you both have. It's amazing.
Well, it's his show.
Yeah.
So I think he wants it to be the best that can be. And that's an unusual thing. You're right, Ron.
Yeah.
Most people want, hey, let's cut his stuff down there a little bit.
Right.
But he's praised me and praised everybody on the show. And, it's a great new experience for me because it's the next generation of comics that I don't know necessarily. I didn't know Louie. I didn't know Zach. I didn't know Martha. And so, it's a whole group of people doing what I do, but, now, which is a whole different, the playing field's different out there with comedy.
Well, you had your success very early on, although I'm sure it didn't feel that way to you, but you were a very young man when you got on Carson and got your specials and then went to Vegas.
31 though.
Yeah.
I just didn't necessarily look 31.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a little, I had been doing it for a while, but you're right, in relative terms.
Yeah, because most people that are 31 are still, running to get somebody water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an amazing thing when you get kind of shot into stardom and then you're in your own place for all those years.
I never got anyone water. No. I always got other people to get me stuff. I would fake like I'm reaching for it. And they would go, "Are you all right?" And I go, "I'm trying to reach that water right there." "Well, let me get it for you." "Oh, could you?" Could you?
Yeah.
I come from that kind of family.
Sure. Well, that's an amazing thing for you to be in a family comedy because your entire career has been examining your family.
Yeah, my whole life has been, how can I take this thing that I grew up with, which I guarantee you is not exactly what you might think it is. Mm-hmm. But nobody's is. Everybody's family has their stuff where you go, ooh.
Yeah.
If you're ever at somebody's house and you're in the kitchen, you hear them, and you hear something, you go, ooh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, poor Robin. And then you look through the, fridge and olives. I love olives.
But that is true. You've had a lifetime examining your family, and now with this character, it's kind of based a little bit on your mom and your sisters.
Yeah.
And oddly, I hear from a lot of people, "Oh, I have an aunt just like that," or "I have a
Isn't that
sister."
a great thing?
Yeah, it's amazing.
You're playing my mother.
Yeah.
I go, well, she's not getting any of the money. I'm on cable. I'm barely getting paid the way it is.
But you must have been doing impressions of your family members as even a little kid, right?
I don't know that I did because I did comedy on a dare.
Yeah.
I never had planned a career in comedy. So it was a little different of a switch for me. But my dad was a musician, and he always stayed up and watched Doc Severinsen because he liked him on The Tonight Show with Johnny. And he would let me stay up and watch the comedian because I like the comedians, Jonathan Winters, Jackie Vernon, Bob Hope. All those people were big influences of me. Johnny Carson.
Wasn't that an exciting night too? If you knew like Rodney was going to be, because we only had three channels back then. So if you knew it was a Rodney or a Rickles night, you're like, "Oh, I'm staying up."
Oh yeah, or Buddy Hackett. Even.
Buddy Hackett was amazing.
Buddy Hackett would do mean things. Which he's got the same family as me. He's doing mean things to his brother. But, so I was always trying to take the chasm and try to relate to it. I can remember the day that I turned from being a kind of an insult, fat joke comic to a guy who talked about his family. I was in a little club in Minneapolis, and I said to the guy in the front, I look at everybody. You look at everybody in the front row. And I saw a guy who was obviously with his father, it just the resemblance. And I said, "Is that your dad?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "You get along with him?" "Yeah." "He's nice, huh?" "Yeah, he's very nice." I go, "Huh." Well, my dad never hit us though either. He carried a gun. And that
changed everything.
That changed everything for me. And so I got such a giant laugh that I didn't get doing anything else, and a different kind of laugh. And then when I came off stage, a guy, Roman DeCare, God rest his soul, who played a tiny harmonica. He was a very funny guy. And he'd get hit a sour note, and he'd pull out a rubber pickle. And he'd go, "Oh, pickle!" And, which always made me laugh, even though I saw it 1,000 times. And then he had no joke after that.
That was it.
Yeah.
But he made a living out of it.
We loved him, so he was very, I came off stage and he said, "Louie, if you do that family material and you do a completely clean act," because I didn't then, "you'll become famous." And I don't know, sometimes you're listening to people and sometimes you're not. And I never had anyone give me any advice like that. So I said, huh. And then I started talking about my mom. My mom's first words out of her mouth at a restaurant are, "Could we get some extra butter?" And the guy would say, "Well, let us seat your party first, ma'am."
And that one moment where you kind of find who you are on stage is always amazing, right?
Well, because then you go and and all you're doing is writing jokes.
Yeah.
Like, well, how can I? Oh, my little brother, you're adopted. They were frog-faced people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And so it just happened. I just started, creating this, partially my mom, but all from a real place.
Yeah.
That, eventually turned into my first special, Mom Louie's Looking at Me, which we just put out, believe it or not, the 25th anniversary of it, which is such, that's when you know you're old. When I started. And then it bore Life with Louie, and then bore the books I wrote, Dear Dad, and the other books about my family, really. They're all about, and now I'm working on a couple of new family projects. And so, I have to really thank my family, and I'm really lucky that somehow I became the, juicer of the family.
Yeah. But you had to have been a real observant kid watching all this go on.
I think I was more of an observant. Yeah, I guess, but I didn't know I was.
Right.
I would just the adults would talk and I go, huh. You know what I mean? I was listening. I guess I was listening.
Yeah.
You know, like the Scientologists. I was listening. You know, I heard something.
But it started
coming.
Yeah. But it started to make sense to you that, you know, what was unique about your family and then what was, like you said, in common with all of us. There's so many, all of us have some kind of family secrets.
Oh, tons.
That we keep.
Oh my God, there's tons. Like I remember when my dad drank. He was an alcoholic and he quit drinking when he was 69. I think he got a DUI, and it just was the time when my dad decided to quit drinking. And I remember my mom turning to me very resolutely and saying, "I told you he'd quit." And I just said, and that's Christine.
Yes,
Baskets.
that's exactly right.
That's really Christine Baskets, believe it or not. A very determined, there's no way I'm not going to win this battle.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know, casualties happen.
Yeah.
You know, we all got affected by that alcoholism. But in some crazy way, even though your father was a monster and he stayed with you, I'm less upset than the people who their parents split up.
Right.
I'm less affected by my father's terror than had he be removed from it, because I think a chasm happens to kids when they're removed from it. My friends who, they just go, well, you know, they abandoned me. And so I guess you can get over abuse easier than you can get over abandonment, or maybe I just could.
Yeah.
You know, because to have him in that, to have that, even though it was bad sunlight, to have the sunlight of my father being in the proximity, there was something really deep about that.
Right.
But I mean, I only look back at these things now like that, you know, because I'm older, probably. Maybe I'm not remembering it as accurately, because I think you try to, like, you know, bend your reality to justify your stomach. You know, like, I mean, you know, like, I don't even eat that much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I even say that to myself when I go, Louie, you eat as much as you can get your hands on, Louie. You know? Is it wrong for me to order 2 sandwiches when everyone else is getting a half a sandwich and a soup?
Yeah. But, you know, when you say too, it's like we're not just nostalgia for the good times. We're just nostalgic for our past in some way, you know?
And I think I think nostalgia is a really comfortable place for a lot of us.
Sure.
And I just try to make money out of mine.
And you have. That's,
you know, I mean,
amazing thing.
Somebody once came up to me, and Louie Anderson, nobody's made more money with a screwed up family than you.
Yeah,
you know, and I go, well, maybe, I don't know.
Well, you know, when you read most people, like an entertainer writes a book in their early days, you kind of skip past it. Yeah. But yours are just fascinating, the details, and that you turned so much of this pain into humor. It's very funny, but the pain doesn't disappear. There's always, the pain is part of it.
You know, it's like my book, Dear Dad, you know, they were letters to my father 10 years after he died, which is the weird thing. And I just, you know, it just came out on Kindle, because Kindle wasn't even a thing back then in the 1800s. And, like when people say, when did you start? I always go 1901. And, you know, some of them will go, oh, Jesus. I had no idea. They don't quite put it together.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. But I always thought that book really was the turning point in my life. I was able to forgive my father completely, and I got to see a 180 degree or 360, whatever one you want to pick, of my father's real life in his childhood. So when I was able to add up my father's childhood, it completed a puzzle and a picture that made me diminish my resentment, hatred, and, you know, and all my hurt from him. Because I go, oh, God, he did actually a lot better than, you know, might have done, you know.
He was a human being. He wasn't a god or a monster.
And you know, the day you see your parents as human beings is always an important day.
Yeah.
And like people will say to me, I'll meet people and they go, I haven't talked to my sister in 7 years. And I go, let's call her.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. I go, let's call her.
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't talk. And I go, you know what? I just want to tell you one thing, and I'll just get off it. I'll say to them, you will not be able to resolve this if you don't do it while they're alive. It won't be as easy. And if you, what are you holding on? I always point out that resentment is the only thing that really eats the container it's in. And it really does it just kills people in so many ways. But it's difficult. I'm not them. I understand it. I had a lot of things with my family, but we had to get it like, are you okay? Are you okay? We tried to resolve it.
Yeah.
I'm more of a peacemaker. I would have been a good negotiator to, all right, listen, you want that. They want that. All right, nobody's going to have it. I'm taking it. The Gaza is mine. You lost your rights.
No.
You're going to have to pay to wail and at the wall. And
everybody's got.
You know what I mean?
Like, sure.
You know, you just want to take. It's like two kids. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have the wagon anymore. And I don't mean to put it in those things. But my mom once said to me, you know what's wrong in the Middle East, Louie? I go, what, Mom? I cannot wait. They don't have enough hot water. And no soup.
No soup.
You know, if I gave you kids some soup and gave you a hot bath, you went right to sleep. There was never any fighting.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, Mom, there's some real truth in your stuff because, it's just amazing. Like I find it very, I'm not going to get preachy, but inclusion. You grew up in the projects, you grew up poor, they line you up. There were the project lines, and they just told us, here's where all the project kids, you guys line up there. And then the other kids, I don't know what they called them, but there was a name for them that, Yon Holmes kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the Syrians, they lined them up next. No, but, it was really, quite honestly, a big lesson for me that I go, oh, I'm singled out here.
Yeah.
And so but my mom was inclusive. Like if a kid wasn't eating enough in the neighborhood, my mom brought him. And why don't you have dinner with us? And she would feed the kid.
Yeah.
Even at sometimes when the parent would come and go, you're making my kid fat.
Yeah.
And she'd go, well, he's got to eat. Well, stop feeding him.
Yeah. Well, I was with you and Jay Moore, and he was saying when his wife, Nikki Cox, was a kid, looking to get into something, you and your mom stopped the car, and your mom invited her in.
To the limo.
Yeah, into the limo.
I was shooting my pilot.
Yeah. And took her into the show and just showed her this fantastic time. And I'm like, who does that? The day you're shooting a pilot, oh, this kid needs to get in.
Yeah. My mom was inclusive.
Yeah.
And so, and also, she shouldn't have done it. Am I right? I mean, no, I love Nikki. Don't get me wrong. But her name was Chrysanthemum then. And, no, but, but my mom, like when your mom does it, you go, what? This is my time. This is my time, Mom. Like in The Godfather. What about me? What about me, Mike? What about my time? But when your mom, and that's what I do with Christine also.
Sure.
To her own end, she will cause trouble. She'll go, I'll fix this.
Yeah. Well, the Easter show when she's pushing tables together, and you're like, this is going to be disaster.
Yeah.
But her heart is in the right place.
Yeah. Also she's nosy.
Yeah, she wants to know everything.
human beings are nosy.
Yeah.
And I come from a nosy place, the Midwest.
Right.
When I go to Minnesota, people say, "When'd you get in?" What? When'd you land? What? What do you mean when did you come in today or when are you leaving? Do you ever think you'll move back here? And I go, gee, I don't even know you. I'm serious. Every single time. When'd you get in?
Let me check my ticket. Oh,
Yeah.
here it is.
Yeah. But just like I go, I won't answer him ever. I go, you'll never know.
What was it like for you being a kid in Minnesota? Was it,
Well, I was a fat kid, but, I was like, I think when you grow up in an alcoholic family, not to make people sad, but it's like growing up where a nuclear bomb went off.
Mm-hmm.
You can't feel the effects always right away, but you know something happened. And you never are sure if your dad or your mom is drunk. Not my mom, she never drank, but whoever the alcoholic is. Like when you go in the house, the thing you want to find out, is he drunk or isn't he drunk? You would almost be able to tell without seeing anybody. You were so, I don't know if it was an intuitive or you just believed it and it happened so much that you were right. And, when you grow up in a family where things are rough, you develop all these really wrong things, like yes is no, and no is yes. And, you develop all these mechanisms to protect yourself. Like you can never have a friend over because if your dad was drunk on the couch or in the chair, you didn't want him getting up with his boxer shorts on and go, you know what I mean? You were embarrassed. And so I think there was a part of me that was, I don't know, like I can't, I don't have a lot of vivid memories of being a child, to be honest with you. But I also think I held on to the great part of me that is a kid and get to live it every day, kind of.
Yeah.
Because I want to cause trouble. Mm-hmm. I want to see if I can get people. My dad used to say, "Here comes Louie. He's going to stir everything up and then he's going to leave." Jeez, I got blamed for everything. And then but it was true. I was that kind of kid, who wanted to, see what I could get going.
What did your dad think of your act when,
He loved it. He
did.
He was a musician, Yeah. My dad was really famous in the 1900s. Like in 1920, he played with Hoagie Carmichael, who was a giant.
Sure.
He wrote Stardust and, in that jazz era, he was a jazz trumpet and cornet player. But I never got to see any of it because he was 50 when I was born. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I heard that. In fact, I have a poster that says Louie Anderson and his orchestra, like a woodblock printing from the 80s, it looks like.
Yeah.
But it's really from like the, 40s and 50s. And it looks like me because his name was Louie also. So I was named after him. And not my middle name's different, but, so I saw that poster, Louie Anderson and his orchestra. And I go, well, that's just like this poster's Louie Anderson comedy posters I have. And so I got to, another thing, a guy came backstage once and said, "Hey, your dad was my trumpet teacher." I go, "What was he like?" "Oh, he was tough. He really give it to you." And I go, "Oh, good. Well, you were probably a slacker then, right?" Yeah. Well, don't bother me then. No, no, but I was really grateful that I got that poster, that we never had any of that memorabilia. It was supposedly a trunk stolen in St. Louis. It's always something like that.
Sure.
There's always a story in a family. We were rich and then somebody took the patent and made their own hair clips. What?
But when you see that poster, you see a man that you never really met. You see different life.
But, I also, I lived with a guy who we would go to the grocery store and he would say to the checker, "Put that stuff in this bag right here." in a separate bag. And my dad would drop that bag off to somebody who wasn't doing well. So I got to see that. Who's that for? That's for the Johnsons. They're a little, my mom, they're not doing too well. And just sending them some ham. You just feel better when you have a nice slice of ham. Let's have ham when we get home, Louie. All right, Mom.
All right, Mom. How about you, when you first moved out to L.A., what kind of transition was that?
Well, Jeff Turbino, who's a comedian from Minnesota, one of the guys who really started comedy in Minnesota, I lived with him and his wife, Jeannie, in North Hollywood. And then I wanted to get in I only had a couple goals. I wanted to get in the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
I wanted to have my name on the Comedy Store, and I wanted to do the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Those were really my two big goals, And it's so funny what goals a comic has compared to maybe what an actor has. Like now a comic might go, I want to get my own show. I want to do that. I never thought like that. I thought, get my name on the Comedy Store, and I want to get on with Johnny Carson, the show I watched with my parents. So the guy finally, Jimmy Walker got me into the Comedy Store, and then he let me write for him. He did it with Letterman. He did it with a lot of people.
Leno wrote for him
Leno.
as well.
And, I was a terrible joke writer. Yeah. That isn't my forte,
Yeah.
But he just was a really kind human being. And, then I would audition for the Tonight Show. The girl Debbie, who worked the Comedy Store, I said, who's auditioning for the Tonight Show? And it would be Howie or someone like that. Mm-hmm. And I go, hey, put me on right before them. So I can, and the guy, I finally got my own audition, and the guy said, you're not Tonight Show material. And your whole life you can do, all you can do, you're like shocked. You're like somebody walked up to you and shot a bullet in your chest. You're not good enough for this show. You're not, Johnny, I don't think Johnny would care for you. And you just go, what? You're like, he's already gone, and you're going, what? You gotta be kidding me. I've been planning my whole career, and for 2 years he kept me off the show. He didn't like me. He's gone now, Jim McCauley, God rest his soul. But he just didn't like me. Maybe he didn't like fat people. I don't know. There's a lot of people who don't like fat people. It just is the way it is. And, I don't care for thin people, so it's the same. So, it's not true. Extremely thin people have the exact same problem that extremely fat people have. But, anyway, so I got booked on the Letterman show. So as soon as I got booked on the Letterman show, the Tonight Show guy called me and said, hey, we'd like to have you on the Tonight Show. What? Because I was so, I'm so naive.
Yeah.
But I knew what was going on. But they're so competitive, the shows back then.
Sure.
And then, so I picked the Tonight Show because, remember, that was my goal. So then, Dave and the producer was so mad. I didn't get on there for 2 years. And I finally wrote Dave a note and said, hey, I think you would have even done this.
Right, sure.
I said it was, and he did, and he had me on after that. So I finally got on, and that's the only way I could get on. And then, I was really grateful.
Well, what was that like? I mean, you have a lifetime goal of doing this show, and you're standing on the other side of that curtain, ready to walk through.
Well, first of all, it's a very tiny backstage thing. People don't realize that. It's about this right up to here, maybe a little further, and then the curtain where you're going to go out. And then that curtain looks very cheap when you're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go, this is not spun silver, right?
Yeah.
But I come from a place where my mom would go, that's cheap. Even though we were dirt poor, she knew what style was. She grew up as kind of a rich kid. And then the band is blaring. And he goes, "You ready?" I go, "Yeah, I'm ready. 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 Ready." And my mouth is really dry. I go, "I gotta have some water. I gotta have some water." He has some water there. I knew that, so I had water there. And he goes, you know, and I know my act really. I've been practicing it for a long time. And then the music comes and the spotlight hits the curtain and you're behind it and it illuminates this room we're all in. Just unbelievable. And you go, Jesus, that's bright, you know, but you're not expecting. And then you hear, "Hey, welcome back. This next guy is making his national television debut. Tomorrow night he's going to be at the Comedy Store at the Dunes Hotel. Please give a nice warm welcome to Louie Anderson." Right? Mm-hmm. And that curtain parts, and you know you're showed before the show the spot you're supposed to stand on. And so you're trying to walk out and look at the spot and then look at the thing. And then I have one great advantage over most comics. I am not afraid of a pause.
No.
I am just not. I learned it from Jack Benny. I'm not afraid of a pause. I don't know why. It's just who I am. Mm-hmm. And I always had a handkerchief, so I had the handkerchief in my hand. And I didn't own a coat. I mean, I didn't own a suit. So my brother got me a coat. Mm-hmm. And I had these gray pants. And to this day, when I see that clip, I go, "Look how fat my legs are." You know, it's the weirdest stuff you look at. And I came out and I said, "I can't stay long. I'm in between meals." And that was it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I did this show and Johnny loved it. And Selma Diamond was on and someone else. And they were running behind time. And so I did the thing and I said goodnight. I didn't get called over, but I was heading back to the dressing room. He goes, "Johnny wants you. Go back out." And I go, Where? Where to go? Where to go? And I come back out for a bow because I got, giant. Yeah. I can still remember going, "Man, that was a good one, Louie."
Yeah.
And then I waved to him and he motioned for me to come over. I went over and shook his hand, and you can go on Getty, and that's one of the first images that comes up, and the rest is a blur. The rest is like a blur. Even when I was out there, I was like it was like an out-of-body experience. One time I know I saw myself from above, I go, "Get back in there. God damn it. Do not screw this up." And then I also did a really brave thing that I've always been brave about. I did an ad lib off Johnny's monologue that I was really proud of myself because I did it to get back at Jim McCauley.
Jim McCauley.
Because he said, "Don't do any jokes that weren't planned." I go, "Fuck you. I'm gonna.
That's so great.
You bastard, you. I'm gonna do a joke. And you can't do it." And I always did another joke every Tonight Show that I went on. Johnny was talking about McDonald's just went over to a billion people or 10 million people or something. I go, "I was just at McDonald's and the sign changed again." Right? And Johnny loved that.
Yeah,
he loved that.
Sure.
So then I did 9 Tonight Shows in or 6 Tonight Shows in 9 months, which is really, I had 9 prepared or something.
Right.
Like
You
that.
had already had your act.
Yeah. I had like 9 or 10 Tonight Shows laid out before I got to L.A.
Yeah, because I
was prepared. I was always a really prepared comic.
There's a comedian that I know had this giant first Tonight Show, was invited back. The next one was okay.
You always feel it's not so good though the second time.
Yeah, it's
like
tough.
I go, that isn't as good as my first one.
Right.
But it was as good in a lot of ways because I introduced another part of who I was with the family stuff.
Right.
And then I never realized, this is one of my big regrets. I was a little full of myself. I've always been very self-centered and egomaniacal. It's a common thing with comics, and especially with me. And I didn't realize how much Johnny liked me. and I wish I would have.
Right.
But you can't have any regrets about that stuff, you know. I probably would have made him hate me if he did.
Yeah.
You know, hey, Johnny, can I take this home? I guess.
I've talked to another great comedian who was very fond of you, and that's Joan Rivers.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, you know, it's so funny that those two kind of had that break, because I always thought that they were just at the top. You know, I saw Joan pretty well towards the end of her life, still was writing jokes every day.
Yeah.
Great jokes every day.
Great joke writer.
Just
much better joke writer than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I really don't, you know, like I write jokes according to, like I'll do this joke now.
Yeah.
I'll go, oh, guess what? I had Fanta that had no calories.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible. It's just horrible. I go, they should never make Fanta without calories. Because it's just no good.
Yeah. It's just unique to
but
you.
But that's what I would do.
Right.
Because that's what would make me most comfortable.
Yeah.
And you know, I was part of the whole chasm. Did you know that?
No.
I was the first comic to perform for Joan.
Wow.
And so they were mad at me for a tiny bit only, though. Mm-hmm. You know, because I said, I'm never going to let happen what happened to me with Letterman. And I never let the Comedy Store, the improv thing. Like, if I was going to go to the improv, I went to the improv. Mitzi goes, were you at the improv? And I go, I know. It's crazy. I go, but you know, Mitzi, this is my home, so you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Hey, Louie, start wearing sweaters. What? You're a sweater comic. What? It's true.
Yeah.
You're a sweater comic, Louie. I am?
But see, that's one of the things I think that maybe even your audience doesn't pick up on you. And David Brenner, I always thought was the same way.
Yeah,
They're just
David.
bullish to do what they decided to do. And a lot of guys might look at you or David Brenner and think, oh, he's a clean comic, so he's a pushover. But both of you guys, I always thought that he just does what he wants to do.
And you know, I was the first comic to do his show too.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because I believed in, same with Arsenio, I did his show. I believe that comics shouldn't be, what do you call it? Not merchandise, but collateral or whatever you want to call it. But shouldn't be, you know, you don't have any ownership over me.
Yeah.
And I'm not in this competitive thing you're in. Because I never competed with comics either.
Yeah.
Like I always thought, well, they're no threat to me. They're not doing butter jokes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're trying to, you know, make a point. I'm trying to make a butter joke.
Yeah. Well, you talked about getting into quiet places, which most comics are fearful. You do it. Newhart always did it.
Yeah, he was a really
so amazingly well. But where does that kind of confidence to know that, okay, the room is quiet, it's not a bad thing?
I'm so full of myself.
Are you really?
I think that's it. Like, hey, if you guys don't want this,
right?
I'm not gonna I learned really early on that less was more, and in Hollywood, no was the most powerful word. Because I learned the hard way around other things in Hollywood where I was too needy. But with an audience, I have to establish who's running the show. This is my show. And I'm not mean or arrogant about it.
No.
But I'm you came here to see me, so this is what I do. I guarantee you I'll pay off my end. You'll go home forgetting. You won't think about your troubles if you trust me. You know, I never said any of that, but I just was really real on stage, and my thing is not to force it, with a joke. And I don't know. I learned it from Jackie Vernon, I think. Jackie Vernon and Jack Benny, very underrated. Jack Benny, if you want to go back and see some unbelievable, he had a lot more even guts than I do, because he would just stare off into the thing, and people would look and go, "What is he looking at? What is he?" And Johnny was really good at it.
Yeah,
too.
Johnny.
He would look to the side, and and do that kind of stuff. And so it just is who I am. I really am really good at one thing, stand-up comedy. I'm really good at it. Not egotistically,
Sure.
but I'm good at it. I'll go up against anybody you want. You know, they always put me on after Robin and Sam and all these people who suck the wind out of the room. But, you know, I was not afraid of that. I okay, well, here, I'm going to follow this. I'm not afraid of it. And it wasn't always easy, but it always made me stronger.
Well, I always thought that
and I loved all those guys.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
And everybody, all those people were fond of you too. And that's what was always amazing to me is like when Rodney put you and Sam on the same young comedy special. You would never do that with music. You would never here's a heavy metal band and a folk singer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
you're saying I'm a folk singer? Oh my God.
So's Dylan.
I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when Rocky Mountain High. Alabama.
Yeah. But you never felt like, okay, here's Sam and Dice was there at the same time?
But I was horrified when Sam went on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was in Rodney's club, and he called me. We became friends. I met Rodney while I was still in Minnesota, and a bunch of us went down to this place called the Carlin Celebrity Room in Minneapolis. And I said, let's welcome Rodney. We're all the comics. Let's go see him. And Jeff Gerbino, I think, really was the catalyst again behind that. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was. And then I said, hey, Rodney likes scotch. I read it in an article. Let me stop and get a really good bottle of scotch. And I said to the guy, cause I never touched alcohol because my dad was a drunk. So I just said, I don't know. So I said, what's a good scotch? And he goes, Glenlivet. I go, give me one. Give me a big bottle of that. And I gave that to Rodney, and he was so touched by that. Hey, man, what the hell? Hey, man, thanks. And he brought it up, for 10 years. Hey, man, you brought me that scotch. I never had anyone bring me anything. You know what I mean? It was really important to Rodney. It was the weirdest thing. And I did it because my mom was that person. So then Rodney called me and said, much later, after, he says, I'm doing a young comedian special, and I know you've already done the Tonight Show, and you're really past this, but I want you to do it, and I'm going to put you on last as a compliment. And I go, okay. And I'm thinking, third. I want to be on third. And every comic knows you want to be on third. Because the first guy takes it, and the second guy warms him up, and then you come out and go to the fourth guy, try following that. So, there were 10 on that show, I think.
Yeah,
I think there were
10.
And so Sam comes out after there's a lot of comics, and they're all good. And Sam comes out, and the New York audiences are in shock. I mean, they're dying of laughter like we did. Like all the comics used to stand in the back and watch Sam because he was doing stuff nobody talked about. He was doing a joke where he said, when they shoot those things where the kids were starving, I'm sure the cameraman has a sandwich. And we weren't thinking that. That was forward thinking. And he crushed that audience. And I went, oh God. Hey, you guys have parents? Hey. Does anybody like butter? Hey. Cats lick it. Oh, God. I'm so scared. I have to be honest with you. I was really scared. Because I go, I don't want to look bad. No one wants to look bad, do they?
No.
You never want to look bad. And so I just said, oh, Louie, just do it. It's no big deal. In the end, but I was nervous and I was but I didn't know anything about editing. I didn't know anything about an audience regaining their legs or any of that stuff. And Rodney gave me the most beautiful introduction. He just really loved me. And, I was lucky enough to do well. That was a big
Sure.
special for everyone involved.
Yeah,
everyone involved, if they're not dead, is still working.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Those specials.
That first one.
Yeah.
That was the first one. And to this day, people still bring it up to me.
Yeah.
But I learned a great lesson that night. Go on third.
But, I hear you tell these stories about being a little kid and watching the Tonight Show and loving it so much, and then putting yourself not even in that television, but in that world where you could say Rodney and, Joan and all these people. It's just amazing to think.
They liked me, I'm likable.
Yeah, you are.
You know what I mean?
You are.
If you're likable, that's a big advantage. I used to tell people, that are comics that were struggling, I go, I'm just likable. I'm not even that good. I would say to them, I'm not even like, I'm just me, but I'm likable. And that's such a big advantage. So I would tell them, I go, do as much stuff to make yourself likable or really hateable. I go there, don't be in the middle. It means nothing.
Yeah.
Don't go out there like one of them that's sitting watching you. Go out there like the biggest a-hole or the nicest person in the world, the most likable person in the world.
Yeah, I think
that I didn't know those things early on. I was just likable. People like me.
Well, they connect. I think people are, will ride it out with you. That's why I say everyone is so happy for you with
I know,
Christine Baskets.
It's really nice.
And as I said, we're walking through and, great comics are in the lobby and wanting to run over and say hello to you. And people are all saying to me, isn't it great what's happening for Louie?
Nice.
Isn't it great?
It is great. It is great. Imagine if I were on network, how much I'd be making. That's the kind of thing I think of. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled with all the accolades, but I love cash. No, they're great at FX to me, but it is a new playing field because I used to be the Louie. I used to be the guy who was the executive producer, and I used to be the Zach. I was that was my show, and now I'm not. That's not my show, but I learned so much. I'm so grateful because I got to fill in a spot in myself. How often at 62 do you get to I found the piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Oh my God. Put it right here, will ya? Oh, I'm going to lay down for a while. I'm going to lay down. Bring me a Kirkland, will you, kid?
And to showcase this thing that you've been talking about so long, which is your mom and your sisters. What a
nice honor for them.
What a strange way to be able to honor someone too,
I think it was always in my back pocket, but I had no part of this. That's the unusual thing. I had no part of this. You realize that?
Yeah.
This is Louie and Zach and Jonathan were together, and Louie said to Zach, and Zach had this actress, I don't know her name, a British actress. That's who he wanted to play his mom. She wasn't available, I guess. I should call and thank her. But
it was Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren.
I think she should have done it. So Louie calls my agent, Steve Levine at ICM, my old agent. Yeah. And I'm with Gersh now. And he says, can I get Louie Anderson's number? And Steve calls me and goes, Louis C.K. wants your number. I go, all right, give it to him. Louie calls me and goes, hey, I'm here with Zach Galifianakis. I go, you are? So lucky. Tell Zach I love him. I didn't do any of that, luckily. And, but I said, yeah. He goes, we're doing a sitcom. We want you to play a character. I go, yeah. Nobody's called me in 9 years. So, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't get the call, and you get that call, you're going to go, yeah, Louis C.K. is calling me. The Louis on FX that's won 75 awards, right?
Yeah.
It couldn't be hotter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's the hottest right now.
Yeah. And also, he punched a hole in for everybody. in the business.
Sure.
He kicked a wall in so that people can now get in there and make shows. You know, that
And be
people
trust it,
people
yeah.
are interested in comics again.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he did something really breakthrough without even saying he did it. You know, which is really good. And he says, "We want you to play Zach's mom." And I go, "Yes, I'll do it." And he said, "We'll call you." I go, "Okay." And that was really it. And I did the pilot a year before we shot the show. And we didn't know if we were going to make it. We had to keep it secret.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I went there to shoot the show. And that's how it happened. I had nothing to do with this. Zero, except how they did it was this way. Louie says to Zach, well, he goes, I have a voice in my head. And then he made a, or some kind of noise. And Louie said, you mean like Louie Anderson? And he goes, yeah. He goes, should we call him? And he goes, yeah. And isn't that an amazing thing?
It's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, I think my mom had something to do with that.
Do you think?
Well, I'm sure she knows Louie's great grandma who's up there and said, why don't you give the other Louie a break? And Zach is Greek, so, you know, they go way back. And, you know.
Wouldn't that be great if that's exactly what happened? Wouldn't that be the most amazing?
What would be better?
Yeah.
And my mom up there going, you know, he's playing me.
Yeah. Well,
I had that same outfit.
Well, you know, even when I heard the premise of the show, and I'm a Zach Galifianakis fan, I'm hearing he's playing a clown, I'm like, oh, this is going to be edgy and crazy. But when you watch the show, it is those things, but it's also sweet and heartbreaking and optimistic in certain places about humans. It's a really, really interesting show.
You know, Ron, you know what's really great? We live in this time where a tiny thing can exist that's really, really, really special.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, there was never any FX.
Right.
When we were, you know, starting out, right? There was no FX. There was no Sirius.
Yeah.
Right? There's no Sirius radio.
Yeah.
And what happened is that Andy Warhol's right. Everybody's getting a chance to shine. And so FX and Louie and people like that who, you know, when you're on cable, you know, the whole thing is when you're on the network, you better get an 8, 9, or 10 share, something big, you know, and they look at that. And they better be 18 to 36. Don't have any old people watching you.
Yeah.
Right? You know? And you know what? I don't know what we get, but I know we don't get an 8, 9, or 10. The OJ thing does. But, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so look at that. Look at that. Because of that, and because the way people watch TV now is right here in front of them, like everybody can watch TV wherever they are.
Sure.
And we had to rush home.
See it
and
once.
there was no DVR.
Yeah, right.
And then we'd have to wait till they ran the reruns in the summer.
Yeah.
But we never got to.
No, God forbid you ever miss Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing. You got a year to wait.
Or It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Which I always would say when they'd say, It's a Wonderful Life. I go, is it? Is it? Is it?
Well, that is also another amazing thing about your comedy, because I've read the books and I know how much loss and pain that you've dealt with, even very recently.
Yeah.
And yet you still bring comedy to people. You still bring laughter to people.
Well, you know, it's a mechanism. It's a savior. It's a you know thing. It's, you know, the real truth about comedy for me is when I would talk, even when I wasn't even thinking of being a comic, people would laugh. And I would go, you know, I'm being serious, right?
Yeah.
And then they would laugh harder. And then I would go, what? I'm serious. And then they would, and I learned that who I was or the way I did things was funny to people. And I think that's probably what saved me, because people like funny people.
Yeah.
You know, they like people around that are funny.
Well, I think we also laugh when you go through some of this stuff because we think, me too. You know what I mean? we're Yeah.
And we should be focusing on art. And I'm going to tell you something that's a little serious. There's an episode coming up in Baskets where they're shooting in France, in Paris. And while they're shooting this, a mile away or a few blocks away, people are planning on killing a bunch of people at that exact time that they were shooting this episodes of Baskets. And I just find that profound, that one group of people are making something to relieve people, and one group of people are doing something to destroy people. And I just think that inclusion, I just really give this a lot of thought. I go, are the people who are lashing out, they keep seeming to be people who've been excluded. So I just find that profound. And they left the day they left, the next day, those attacks took place. And I'm so thankful none of them, but isn't that an amazing thing? Like, isn't that an amazing thing when you find out in history, what had happened? But I just find it exactly like Baskets is profound in so many ways. And I just think, oh my God, we are not being inclusive enough. Like, I try not, like I always say at the elevator, let's fit another person in. I go, come on in here. And I don't mean it in any weird way. I just want us to, I don't want to rub up against you, but I don't want you to feel excluded. That's kind of what I think. My comment, I think it comes from that place.
I think that there is, in your comedy, a place of pain and a place of beauty, and that we all recognize it,
Yeah.
And, again, I'm going to say the same thing that so many people are saying. Really, really happy for you.
Thanks.
And you really, really deserve what's happening for you right now. And it's so great to have you stop by. In your comedy, a place of pain and a place of beauty, and that we all recognize it,
Yeah.
And, again, I'm going to say the same thing that so many people are saying. Really, really happy for you.
Thanks.
And you really, really deserve what's happening for you right now. And it's so great to have you stop by.
Yeah, it's great to be here. And, I never even knew this existed. See, this is what you'll find out when you get a hit. Hey,
Louie Anderson,
I never,
everybody.
yeah, thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, man. I really had
You've been listening to Bennington on Raw Dog Comedy, Sirius XM 99.